Boo! Boo! Welcome, everyone. We're glad to have you with us today. Welcome back to American Freeman. I'm assuming we're live at the moment, and we're glad to have you with us. You are listening to the Freeman Radio Network. I am your host here at American Freeman. I am Don Freeman on the land of the family Perry. Thank you for being with us. I am joined, as always, by the quintessential Brit of the wit, Maggot. Glad to have you with us again today.
Thank you.
He always gives you such a lame opening, you know. He just lays it out there, you know. I don't know.
Wait, what do you?
Just for Maggot, he's okay, and then he's going to lay it out for Maggot, and it's like, oh, and now he's going to like some creepy little rhyme and all that. I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
And then he wants Maggot to say hi, like he's got it all laid out. Okay, go on.
Yeah. Well, I'm supposed to answer their base format or something, you know. It's like, yeah, so it's true. I am very, I'd say, Maggot. As foretold, just hi to your. There you go. I can speak oldie worldy sometimes.
Well, I could be more creative and more insulting if you'd like.
I'm not bothered.
Fair enough. The other voice you're hearing on the line there at the moment, folks, is the president of the Americas chapter of the World Freeman Society, Mr. Evstratios Constantine.
Morades.
There you go.
You can do it. You don't leave out the last name like you can't pronounce it. Thanks a lot.
Morates. More ATs. Oh, well, as long as I do it phonetically, I think I should be just all right.
Yeah,
Stratios Constantine Morates.
Morates?
Morates.
Yeah.
Morates.
Have both of you guys with us as always. We're also joined by one of our technical torrent associates here, who's responsible for making sure that we are available all over the web for your digestion. Mr. David Ray, thank you for being with us today.
I'm here.
He's our number one fan as well.
Right. Our number one fan and contributor. Woohoo! Bravo and kudos to us. Today is Tuesday, April the 20th. For those of you who don't know, that means it's not only Hitler's birthday, but it's also Earth Day.
Well, fuck Hitler. You know, I don't celebrate that.
Hitler's birthday.
Fuck off.
And Earth Day. Same time.
Pardon?
Feed Hitler.
Yeah, I'm telling you, grandson of the Rothschild with the dumbest form of government. I mean, come on.
Well, I wasn't saying we had to celebrate it. I just said it.
I just wanted to make my point that, God, I hate that guy. And it
Fair
isn't for
enough.
the standard reasons. He just is the worst form of government ever, and plus he's a Rothschild.
What, fascism is the worst form of government?
Yeah, I mean, who the hell wants that? I mean, you want to be told what to do? We like it took a long time for me to get some of these people to talk and explain why what they wanted sucked. I mean, because they always want to tell you the problem, because everybody can tell you the problem, but can they tell you the solution? And so when they finally told us what their solution was, like we had like Lily Carter on the air and stuff like that. There was another show. There are previous editions, and when Quest explained, like, if you're raped and you couldn't go and complain about it because, let's say, someone above your station had raped you, well, you don't have the right to complain about them. So you'd have to find someone above your station who'd be able to complain for you, and then why would they do that? So you just take it. You know what I mean? I mean, she had a nervous breakdown on the air. I thought that was just extremely funny because she had been sort of duped by these people, and they don't explain what they want. See what I mean? So you never quite know.
Yeah.
All right. That's probably one of the most typical things that goes on is lots of people can tell you what's wrong with the world, what's wrong with society, what's wrong with the way that people do things, but then you press them for any kind of solution and they fall apart on you.
Well, they don't want to tell you because it's so unpleasant. I mean, like Quest actually thinks like The Handmaid's Tale is a heartwarming story. You ever seen that movie? Robert Duvall. I mean, he looks at that. It's romantic. He loves it. You know. I mean, I don't know. It seems...
Well, you know,
but he's sincere, at least.
This is a lighthearted comedy.
Yeah. I mean,
if you're going to call The Handmaid's Tale a love story, then Schindler's List is a lighthearted comedy.
Well,
it's a farce.
That comes
Yeah.
from the
Wasn't
fiction
it?
section of the bookstore. When you go to the bookstore and you look for the books that it comes from, that's from the fiction section. Seriously.
Schindler's List.
Yeah, no, it's
Of
actually
course.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's
Swindler's List.
Yeah.
it's something like that.
Right.
Yeah, it's amazing how you can oppress people, and as soon as you start pressing them, they completely fall apart.
Right.
I was having a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday who's was relating a conversation with a friend of his, and as soon as he got put into a hard line position where he had to figure out some way to deal with the criminal element, he just started babbling on about utopia and the perfect world, and it took all of my effort and energy to keep from just rolling on the ground laughing while I'm listening to this guy just spew about how, well, as soon as we can all learn how to get along, and I just thought to myself, wow, you really have no concept of human nature, do you?
And they want to force that, and it's all a lie in the first place. These are all disingenuous tricks to get you to go along with whatever the program they're selling anyway. I mean, like
Sure.
like communism, for example, they're never going to remove the police state, but they all go around with stars in their eyes. Oh, one day we'll get rid of the police state. It won't be necessary. What do you mean it won't be necessary? They're never going to move. The whole thing's a lie. You're a slave. It's fascism, dumb crap. You know what I mean?
Sure.
How stupid
It's
is
not
that?
like they're sending out police robots, with like self-destruct buttons on them that will
Right.
expire after 30 days. They have to actually raise up a part of society.
I mean, the
Yeah,
whole
it's
point of
actually
those things is
society.
power, and control. Social
It goes from
monarchy.
generation to generation as well. So yeah, you've got like the parents who teach the children to become police, or the children might become police because they had bad parents or whatever. And it's, you've got the elements of society throughout who wants to become police. And there's usual. Well, there's good police and bad police and stuff.
No, there
but,
aren't. No, there aren't good police and bad police. There are no good police. None. If there ever were any, they've been removed in the last 50 years. They're gone. They haven't been for a long time. There are no good police. The fact that people believe there is shows you they're delusional. I mean, and we don't have to convince them. Soon they'll be tasered or something, or they won't help them again or whatever. They'll know why.
Well,
Yeah,
and
I haven't really got an opinion on it myself, but I'm just saying that's what they go on about in the truth movement. They will say, "Oh, because they're not all bad."
Sure they are.
It's like,
Absolutely. I know. No, I know you're just saying an example, but damn it, I want to say it every time. Like I reject evil every time.
They're part of the Masonic network anyway, so
The Fraternal Order of Police in America. You know what I mean? How obvious is that?
Well, and for those of you out there who might be thinking that that's not necessarily the case, even Menard references having been pulled over by a police officer and questioning and doing his duty to encourage the preservation of the freedom of travel, mentions some of the different Freeman concepts and the difference between statute law and common law to the police officer, who decides to take it upon himself, his due diligence that he's supposed to do anyway, but actually does it and follows up on it. About 6 months later, Menard runs into him again, and the previous police officer has now been moved up to a position of detective. They've taken him off the roads because he started asking questions to find out and learn where the elements of a peace officer and policy enforcement officer split. And as soon as he started asking questions, they realized he was no longer going to be an effective grunt for the fraternal order. They needed to move him into a position where he was dealing with things that he would stop asking questions about. So I definitely think Lenny's right. As long as
that's the fear of middle. That's the middle management's fear. But the reality is they would have to get rid of that guy. You know what I mean?
Well, they've got to move him into a position where it becomes less of an instrument of a connection with the public.
Well, I mean, but get rid of him in terms of if they have to put him in the back to do some filing or whatever. But this had ruined him for the ability to oppress the public and enforce the corporate policy and give me your ID.
Exactly. Exactly, and because they realized that he was not going to be somebody that could be pushed around into a position of automatically doing that, they had to do something to move him out of being in that position and move him into a position where all of a sudden policy enforcement isn't his bag anymore.
Mm-hmm. But there is no bag unless you're doing that. There is nothing. They're not doing the peace officer thing.
Well, sure, of course not.
I mean, what else is there? There's taser him. He won't comply.
No, and you see, that's
Tasers
just
many
the
ways
most...
to
It requires that voice to do it. You know, you got to have a shtick. Yeah.
Yeah. I know.
Oh, okay.
I think... Now, Maggot, over there in the UK, your police officers don't carry... your regular police officers day-to-day don't carry a loaded armed weapon, do they?
Not that I'm aware of. I've been tasered a few times, but I just thought it was funny. Sorry, I'm not normal like that.
You've been tased
I am the
a few
inspiration.
times.
I am the inspiration behind. Yeah, I am the inspiration behind Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. The tasering scene where they were laughing. They're just like, if I had that done to me, I was just like, the nuts, in the nuts. Got a high tolerance to electricity. Personally, I don't even know. I don't know. I'm suspicious of it. Whether it is actually that lethal. I think it's people are so psychosomatically programmed. You know, it's like tasers. They're evil. 10,000 volts for your nuts, and you're gonna just go screaming in pain, and you're gonna have heart attacks and heart failures. Maybe they agitate problems you've got, but I don't know. I wouldn't like to say, but I don't think they're as bad as they make out, and I think a lot of it.
Wait a minute. So it's okay to hit you with a cattle prod to get you to do what they want? I don't care if it's good or bad. No.
I think to be honest,
them and their
tasers they're using
tasers.
were fake ones.
They don't get it.
I think
You
they're
know,
using toy
you smack
ones.
upside the head, whether
Time for the
it's with the...
straitjacket for these cops, man. They need to be locked up. This is the end of this. Coming up. And plus,
Yeah.
as
Well, I'm
minorities,
sure
they've
they
been
are
engaged
as
in
bad as
fraud
they
their whole
can.
career. It's time to take their stuff.
Lenny, guys, I'm going to play devil's advocate here for
Oh
just
God,
a
no,
second.
no defending the devil. Screw this. I hate this crap. Absolutely not. Have we not heard their position? We've heard their position. They have whole movies that project their position. We've heard them defend their garbage and lies. We don't need to do it. All they do is lie. Hey, and I'm not radical. I'm a conservative. Thank you.
Lenny, I understand you're the producer and you
pissed
can
off.
cut me off.
No.
What did
You
want?
say whatever you want.
However, all I'm trying to state here is that before the introduction of statute law, before 1913, before 1935, before the total destruction of the financial state, before we got to a point where everything was a statute, before everything was an act, when police officers existed simply to keep the peace, when they actually, any police officer that was worth his merit, that was really acting as a police officer as the attempt to keep the peace and prevent actual criminal activity, these individuals were laudable for what they did. It was as soon as they overstepped their bounds, or as soon as the identity changed from being simply a peace officer to a policy enforcement officer, that abject level of corruption infiltrated the entire system.
Oh,
and
then they became corrupt. I see.
right now.
They weren't bad before, but now they but okay. There's two things wrong. Two things wrong with that.
Right.
Number one,
Weren't-
they've been at this level for longer than we've been alive. This hasn't been true for longer than we've been alive. Okay, it's 1913 unless you're really older than I thought. But number two, the cops were there's holy men before, you see, and now they've just gone wrong. Not really. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
They didn't have Pinkertons who would come in and just kill everybody in the mining town. I see.
That's not what I said. Pinkerton cops are not the same thing as peace officers.
No, they're not. They're policy enforcement. But, come on. It's a little guy with a little bit of authority going mad. That's what it is.
Well, of course, but that's not necessarily limited to just police. I mean, anytime you give a little person with authority, they're going to go mad. Look at what Napoleon did. Look at what Hitler did. Look at what George W. did.
I've been trained my whole life how to handle authority and not screw it up.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Well, then why don't you explain it for our listeners how to do that?
Oh, yeah. I'll just summarize the Byzantine system in a few minutes. There's a reason they use the word Byzantine now as a pejorative term for complicated. Okay, go on. Move forward.
Can we go back to the Nazi thing just a second? Because I think it was Lenny introduced me on this show, and I was speaking. He was under the assumption that we were speaking to ex-head of the BNP.
Oh, yeah, that guy, yeah.
Wait a minute.
What was his name? I forgot his name. Nick Griffiths, I think it is. No, is that the guy? No, he's the more famous
Yeah, I
guy.
got blasted out. Yeah, I got blasted out by music on MySpace. So yeah, he thought I was speaking to the ex-head of a BNP or one of the ex-heads of the BNTP, but he was a total nut job. He was totally washed out, burnt out, and he sounded like one of those old fat hippies with a beard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
See too many of this in this town. And yeah, he was going, oh, floating around, and I was floating, and I was made of light. Yes. He was going on about the body of light experience in the New Age, but he was just like, if that is what the BNP is all about, it's just a bunch of washed out hippies. It's just really embarrassing. It was really bad, and I was deliberately like, I didn't answer. I was just like, he got cut off, and then I got called in because I didn't want to speak to him directly because these sort of like Nazi idolisation of people like me, you know, just look like somebody in the SS or something, you know, it's like, oh, you are our god, you can't speak proper German. That's like so Jamaican, but you know. Yeah, we have seen you in town wearing the black uniform. Yeah, it's like, he was just like really embarrassing just to be on the same show. I called in as like just like a guest call in, and I was asking about. They were just talking balls basically. It was just total pants. He was saying, oh, my mum, she could not believe it when I told her a Nazi, and my dad said, get out of this house.
Well, that's only common sense.
Yeah.
So that's the common sense perspective. Yeah.
We are having no Nazis in this house.
Good.
It's like, probably
I cheer that
substitute the word. Yeah. Probably substitute the word Nazi for gay, and you probably get more accurate description of his life story.
Right. Well, okay.
Yeah. Homosexual or something in the 60s. He was just like making out such a shock, and I actually did a check on him based on his name, and I couldn't find him anywhere. I got hold of a list of all BNP members, active and non-active in the UK, sort of exclusive, Maggot exclusive. I got it on the internet. He wasn't listed there,
Right.
and this is like one of the founding members. So, sort of like the sort of moral of the story is you can't really trust them at all.
No.
There's a lot of fakes out there, and you know, even if you cut down to it, the BNP is just just National Socialism with a different name, and they haven't really. They're not any different to the National Socialists and Nazis anyway, so they're just going to make the same mistakes. Probably still got the same problem with homosexuality as well. It's like what screwed up the Nazis amongst other things anyway. But like all the top people like in the SS or whatever being homosexual, or just like
they're
perverted.
incredible hypocrites.
Yeah.
Well, you think about
Fat and
all of the
decadent.
Republican congressmen here in the U.S. who have stood on platforms of moral values and family values and the religious right and everything else, and then how many of them get found out as being gay, clandestinely gay, soliciting their page boys with the erotic email messages and everything else. And these are supposed to be people that are, all for family values, and you can't have any kinds of a gay blah 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 blah, etc. 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 and everything else.
I know, you're just more closet gays.
I found the guy's name, James Hawthorne.
That sounds right. Because I couldn't find him. I found Hawthorne used as an address several times. Maybe used as a first name. But there was no Hawthorne James or James Hawthorne listed anywhere. And you think he also had a website or something. It never actually mentioned that he was a member of the BNP or ex-member of the BNP.
Right.
Strange. And he was acting like, I am still founding member of the BNP. But he was a sore for us.
He was just an extremely drunk zealot.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've all been that from time to time.
Not me.
Never. I'm sorry. I apologize.
I mean,
Getting back to this,
I tend to throw up.
Go ahead.
I tend to throw up.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I don't. That's why I don't really drink anymore. I can't do it. I get really kind of sick.
I have relatives of mine that are that way.
I mean, I was never the captain of the drinking team, and I just don't do it well. So just not into it. There's only so many times you can spin. I mean, I'm just not into it. So, go ahead.
So, getting back to the whole peace officer, police officer thing just real quick, David Ray, you just sent me something that I wanted to share and then get some insight from you on, if possible, if I may.
Okay.
David apparently had sent an email to...
We will interrogate you. You sent an email. We will catch you.
Go ahead, David. Why don't you go ahead and set this up for us?
Confess.
I forget the name of the organization, but it was the site is post.ca.gov, and it had something to do with a fraternity of peace officers, I believe it said. And so I contacted him, and I'd seen one of Bernard's videos, and so I decided to ask him if there was a difference between a peace officer and a police officer. I asked him if there was a difference in their duties, how are they related, and the response I got back was simply the terms are interchangeable and nothing else was said.
Oh, see, that's the fraud Menard was talking about. They've been engaging in fraud their whole career.
And what the email he was sent back came from a woman named Karen Lozito, who is a senior law enforcement consultant, legislative advocate, Public Information Commission on Peace Officer Standards and Training, based out of California.
So they're all getting some very good training. We can trust that they're good guys. Yeah, they're good training.
Well, and the email response that he got from this woman just says, "Hello, comma, the terms are interchangeable, period. Regards," and then signed out.
Well, at least she signed her name to it.
Well, if you look at the question is, I was looking at your site, post.ca.gov, and I'm curious, is there a difference between a peace officer and a police officer? Is there a difference in their duties? How are they related? The only response is, the terms are interchangeable.
Yeah, the terse sort of bullying, and don't ask us again. We don't want to have to put ourselves on the record with this lie. There's always that voice that goes with it. You see.
Yeah, I never followed up because I wasn't sure where to go with it. It's like
they want you to have nowhere to go.
I didn't want to be adversarial. I didn't want to say, "Well, you didn't exactly answer my question." And
But you totally could have. You could have responded with, "Thank you very much for your response. I appreciate that you did it in such a timely fashion. However, my concerns are that I do not feel or understand that you answered my questions the way that I was asking them. Is it a problem for you to answer these questions fully rather than just give a quick answer? Is there some reason that you don't want to answer my questions? I would appreciate a response that gives a more full, complete answer. Thank you very much." And see if they respond to you. You don't have to be, you don't have to be in conflict with them, but you can let them know that the response that they gave you didn't answer your question, and let them know that that response isn't acceptable, that you don't understand that response, that you don't stand under it.
right.
You have absolute full recourse and right to do so, and they can't get mad at you or get upset with you or taser you for asking questions, although we do live in the United States, in which case...
The taser capital of the United States?
It may
Of
happen.
the world, I mean? Yeah, the U.S. is the taser capital.
Yeah.
Don't you dare
It
act
is.
that.
Yeah, and just, Maggot, I know you mentioned things about it not being, that bad or whatever, etc. Have you seen the video of the individual that was tasered at the British Columbian airport and was tasered to the point that he collapsed?
No, he died. He died.
Hospital?
That Polish man died. They killed him.
He died because of the effects of the tasering and what it did to his whole body system. And according to the taser laws, the taser acts, it's only supposed to be used in situations where a gun would be used. And it's done to reduce the effect of needing to use a gun to shoot somebody, either to harm them, subdue them, or kill them. And yet these tasers are being used almost automatically every single time, just as an excuse instead of having to enter into any negotiation. It's the same thing like when the police officer
Now,
pulls
I got a
you over.
question about that.
Okay, go ahead.
Whose act is that? That's the federal law, or?
To be honest with you, I've been looking for the actual breakdown of it. according to Menard, who has done far more research into it than I have, in Canada, the way that it's structured is that the use of a taser is supposed to be done only in the cases in which violent force on the part of the police officer and the use of their gun would be required, and the taser is to be utilized to not have to actually fire their sidearm. So a taser is supposed to only be used in situations where you would have to draw a gun and fire upon somebody. Which means just using a taser to get you to comply with an order is a violation of that act. And because these police officers are government officials, they are held accountable under the statutes that define.
So basically, anytime they use a taser, they're admitting that they should have used a gun.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
And if they should have used a gun, if they should have used a gun, then they should have used a gun.
Precisely.
So,
and if the situation,
so if you can demonstrate that a gun would have been inappropriate, then
so is the taser.
If you haven't suffered, of course, the memory loss that you get with the taser, so if you're not going to be able to explain very well.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to have to rig up a system where my mom can listen to this program while I talk. Cause, looks like I got dropped from the line. No, I'm still there.
No,
So she's commenting on my comments and doesn't hear what you guys are saying.
Just as well. Can't you pick up the whole? Don't you just pick up the whole stream? Oh, can't
Looks like we lost Clark. That's
Yeah.
Why don't you want to go offline for a second, because I want to tell a story.
Okay.
Story.
Go offline for a second. Put the feed on. I want to tell her a story.
Oh, well, if I shut my mic off and unplug my
Hold on.
headphones,
I'll just knock you off Skype. Turn on the feed.
Hold on. I don't think I can turn on the feed at this moment.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they use real tasers on me. I think that was a sort of psyop, like a comedy psyop. But what I was saying is that I think it might.
You live in a country where they can't carry a gun. They probably have a low watt taser too. You know.
That's it. It's a toy taser.
Come
Yeah,
to
I'm just gonna
America.
cut my,
Come to
just
Cincinnati,
gonna cut my mic.
Maggot. I'll get you a ticket. We'll introduce you to Simon Lease.
Taser properly.
Yeah, you want to get tasered properly? Ask Simon Lease a question. Come on to Cincinnati.
Yeah, according to the president there, Cincinnati's got some of the most hardcore, hard-edge police officers
They're
that I've ever
psychotic.
heard. I've lived in the big cities across the country. I've lived in small cities and small towns, and the stories that Estratios can tell you about the police officers in his hometown are just ridiculous. And I've lived Boston, I've lived New York, I've lived Portland, Oregon, I've spent time in major cities all over. I've lived in Tampa. I have never seen police officers act and respond the way that Estratios can tell you about his hometown. It's frightening. There's no question about it. And I think it's symptomatic. And I think part of the problems that we have in the United States in trying to get as much truth movements going out there, as much information being disseminated out there, is that people have for so long fallen under the idea that the authority figures in this country have absolute
They're public
right
servants.
Sure.
Authorities. What are they, experts at something? They're experts at something.
No, I said
Are
authority
they math
figures.
geniuses?
They might be.
No, they're not. They don't do anything well. Oh, I guess oppress the
Intimidate people.
yeah.
Yeah, they do that very,
Oppress
very
the
well.
pawns. I guess. Oh, okay. They're doing great at that one. That's excellent.
Right. But I think they've been indoctrinated to believe that that's the way that the system is supposed to work, and I definitely think the police academies are designed to encourage that type of self-sanctimonious element in their students, is that you are doing great things for this country. You're doing great
They're
things.
heroes.
You're a hero. Which brings me back to something, Lenny. You want to share that whole Facebook connection post that you shared with me earlier, either today or yesterday?
No, I'm just getting David Ray on because I want to explain something I did some research on.
Okay.
You fixing it so his mum can hear as well? Because I just thought she was listening to the stream.
I'm almost there.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Everything I ever had to do, I had to operate myself, unfortunately. I'm just going to go to iTunes here on his machine.
Sure. Now, over there in the UK, Maggot, what's the overall impression of police officers? Do they wear a dual role as a policy enforcement officer and a peace officer? Do they try to only stay on one side of that contradiction? Give us for those of us here in the U.S. who have never traveled to the U.K., give us kind of an idea of what you can run into on average when dealing with a bobby, if I'm using the term properly, there in the U.K.
They're generally treated like, sometimes with suspicion. It depends. Every time I've seen them interact with people, it's different. On some days, they can just walk through a crowd of people, and it doesn't make any difference. Just like pretty much like regular people. Other times, people are suspicious of them, but I haven't seen any fights or anything silly like that. They generally get sent to scenes after the event. Sometimes before, but they're always like got body armor on and stuff like that if they're in that situation. So there's never any sort of like real hassle, because we've got such we've got restrictions of firearms and restrictions on knives and stuff like that. Then there's no like firefights break out or anything like that. Not that I've seen. Not that I go to those sort of areas that it might happen. I mean, I'd only see it if it happened in town centre or something.
Sure.
Well, okay. So in Indiana, there was this. They're like this young. They're like 17, the boy and the girl, and they're going off to college. It's summer, and the boyfriend's having lunch there at the girlfriend's house, and so he starts choking on a hamburger, and even though the girlfriend's mother was a nurse, she calls 911 to get an ambulance, and the police show up because they called for an ambulance, so the cops show up, and without asking anybody, the cop assumes that the 17-year-old kid is a PCP case, begins tasering him, and they check their records later. We're talking more than 14 times, more than 7, 8, 15 seconds at a time, and he keeps tasering him right down the ground. Then he takes him to the hospital, insists to the hospital that this is a PCP case. The first hospital rejects the kid. So they go on to the second hospital. He insists that it's a PCP case. The second hospital rejects the kid. He's choking on a hamburger. We haven't even addressed that yet. And the third hospital gets him. Even though he's a PCP case, they take him to the inner city and all that. So, and then finally, they test the kid. He has never taken a drug of any kind. Now, he has memory damage, memory loss. He's semi-retarded now. He doesn't go into college. They were off just the next month to go to college, he and his girlfriend. He's not going anywhere. He can't remember the incident. Today, he can't remember the incident. And it's because they're psychotic. Do you understand what I'm saying here? They called for an ambulance, and I can swear on my own show. The motherfucking cops show up. Where's the ambulance? And did he test him? He's a PCP case? Is PCP in the suburbs such a problem? Hamburger is a problem.
Right.
God, I get upset when I talk about this story. I have the TV news tapes. I have the newspaper articles. This went on and on and on. Because then they got the taser records, and the taser company disavowed the police station because they went on so long with the tasering. The guy has memory damage over it. He's not going to college now. He had a hamburger. And this happens every freaking day. And I'm not saying get rid of the taser. I'm saying get rid of the cop. Get rid of all the cops until they learn to behave themselves. And only the peace officer variety. No more policy enforcement.
Right, definitely.
It's time for prison terms and death penalty for these people. Because many of them are extremely worthy of it, because they can be proven in court. We need trials. Not the blue wall of silence, not the fraternal order of police and the Masons blocking everything.
Well, definitely. I'll bring up, since we're on the topic and on the subject, the University of Maryland student who back in March was gang-busted and beat by a large group of police officers acting completely out of character and completely
out of character? Well, they were friendly to him then. So they were friendly to him?
Offering directions and stuff.
Yeah, they were helpful. They were acting out of character. They politely answered his questions, are you saying?
So they were acting completely in character,
okay,
and yet at the same time were acting in such a manner as though to be out of character with the perception...
With human beings. They didn't act in a human manner.
That's correct.
I see. Yeah.
Right. They acted out of human character.
Yeah,
How about that?
They were more like animals.
Precisely.
Like a jaguar. Or a cougar or something. I mean, we're talking like a wild animal who would be ripping your face off. Yes. There you go. Okay,
for those of you who may not have seen the video or be aware of it or anything else, I'll share just this real quick, and we'll get into talking more about it. This is a Cato at Liberty. This is the title of it is University of Maryland Beating Prompts Investigations. Following the home basketball victory against Duke, U of Maryland students took to the streets to celebrate. Prince George's County Police. That in and of itself is an indictment of the whole police system itself, considering they refer to themselves as the Prince George County Police. Along with mounted officers from the Maryland National Capital Park Police, responded to disperse an unruly crowd. Now, if any of you have seen any of the videos on this, that crowd was not unruly. It was a bunch of people standing around, drinking, partying, and celebrating. Unruly is when they start flipping over cars and burning them like they did in East Lansing after Michigan State lost in the Final Four like 4 or 5 years ago. That's an unruly crowd. This crowd was not unruly. One student skipped for joy toward police in riot gear. That's not true. One student was talking to a couple other students and walking down a sidewalk and happened to be skipping a little happily down the sidewalk, but not towards anyone in riot gear. He actually was moving towards down the sidewalk, and there happened to be one mounted police officer near the sidewalk. One student skipped for joy towards police in riot gear. False. Then stopped as he neared two mounted police officers. Stopped as he neared one, if you watched the video, and a second one approached. Prince George officers rushed the student, beating him with clubs until he fell to the ground, and then continued to deliver blows as he lay on the pavement. The student, John McKenna, which, for any of you out there who might be wondering, John McKenna sounds like a pretty white Anglo-Saxon name. So it's not like this was a racially motivated beating. This does not come across as being some ethnically charged event or that the individual deserved it because of whatever reason. The student was charged with felonies on suspicion of assaulting officers on horseback and their mounts. Thank God for this video that's out there, because if you see the video, he was at least 2 feet away from the closest mount the closest horse, when he stopped moving and realized that he was coming too close and started to turn around. The charges against the student, McKenna, were dropped yesterday, beginning of this week, without comment, which means that they knew they were unfounded. They knew they weren't dropping the charges because their suspicions were unfounded. They dropped it without comment, which means they knew they were wrong. And now the officers responsible for the beating are, quote, end quote, under scrutiny. Under scrutiny. Continuing with the article, one of the 3 officers who beat McKenna has been suspended, and as soon as the other 2 are identified, they face parallel sanctions. Prince George's prosecutors have opened a criminal investigation, as well. So, first of all, the charges against this student were completely falsified by the Prince George. Why should there be any county or any fraternal organization of police or anything in this entire country titled Prince anything, especially Prince George? I mean, come on. We live in America, don't we? Right? Am I wrong? No.
Well, I don't know.
Well, I could be wrong.
You've got places named Prince and King and stuff.
Right, exactly. I thought we got rid of all that. So then they charged the student with suspicion of assaulting officers on horseback and their mounts. On suspicion. They charged him on suspicion and tried to utilize that as the fundamental operative for their actual beating of this individual, of this student. They used the charge of suspicion to indicate that it was okay to beat this person into unconsciousness and then beyond. Not only that, but then the police officers that are indicated in it, none of the police officers that were there, the two mounted officers in the video, neither of them tried to stop the event from happening or intercede on behalf of the public. They just continued to sit there while three officers in riot gear using clubs proceed to beat this student to the ground. And one of them has been suspended, and as soon as they identify the other two, quote, end quote, they face parallel charges. What, you mean they'll be suspended too? If you think about this, if I and two of my friends were to suddenly decide that somebody had come too close and rush out and jump on top of them and beat them into unconsciousness and beyond, I'd be sitting in a jail cell right now. I wouldn't be suspended and allowed to be at home and hang out with my family and my kids and watch TV and play video games and still earn a paycheck even though I'm suspended, because it doesn't say suspended without pay. I don't get to continue to live my life as a normal citizen of the United States. I'm automatically locked up and thrown in jail for a violent attack against somebody. And if you watch the video, you notice right from the get-go that there is no violent attack, there is no justification for the police beating, and the worst that they're getting right now is a suspension, and it's, quote, end quote, under investigation. Well, what do you need to investigate? The video is proof. The video is proof that a citizen, a free citizen of the United States, was jumped, attacked, and violently beaten for no other reason than under suspicion of potentially causing a threat. Well, that's the same thing as locking somebody up because you think they might commit a crime. Well, I think that all of Washington has committed crimes. Do I get to go in with the sheriff's officers and lock up all of Congress? Of course not. So the whole idea of officers even acting as peace officers or policy officers, even if it's interchangeable, they only operate as policy enforcers or protection enforcers for their own sense of self. Comments and thoughts? Maggot, do you guys have anything like that happens in the UK? David, have you seen anything locally that happens like that? Michael, are you familiar with the case? Have you seen anything that happens this way? Lenny, I know you've seen the video because I've sent it to you. Have you found anything else that might indicate to you a continuing perversity on this whole situation?
I haven't seen the video myself, as I don't have any opinion on it.
You haven't seen the video?
No.
Oh well, geez, I'll go ahead and try and send it up so you can take a look at it. It's seriously rather ridiculous. Hold on, let me find the link here and I'll send it off to you real quick. Anyone else got any comments on it? No? Seriously? Am I talking to thin air?
Eustachius says he's very angry, even though he's in the bathroom hearing about it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It happens to all of us. It seems a travesty of the American way of life, much less the common law way of life across the entire globe, in which actions that are conducted by people that are supposed to be engaged in protecting the peace are working actively towards creating problems. It just seems ridiculous as far as I can understand it. When David contacted that person, they say that when they say that officers act simultaneously as peace officers and policy enforcement officers, and he's told that there is absolutely no differentiation between those terms, it makes you call into question how much attention these people are paying to how they're actually operating. I don't know how police officers or policy enforcement officers, peace officers, whatever, act in the UK, but I know that locally here within the U.S., the police officers that I know, whenever I try to ask them any of these questions and try to inquire as to the difference between a peace officer or a policy enforcement officer, or if a ticket is a bill of exchange, if it's a contract, or if I'm required by any laws that they can actually reference to as to whether I need licensing, insurance, registration, etc., 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 they completely change the subject, change the focus, try to talk about something else, and refuse to answer the question. And it seems to me more and more all they're doing is reiterating and reinforcing the entire that they know the truth, they know the limits of their power, they know the limits of their authority, they know the limits of their capabilities, and yet
they know the limits?
And yet they know that they can step beyond them because they can only be called to task on those limits if people are informed enough to call them to task. It comes back. Part of it comes back to my little definition segment at the end of yesterday's show, and the difference between duty, D-U-T-Y, and rights, R-I-G-H-T-S. It's when a policy enforcement officer indicates that they're acting out of a duty, it indicates to the court that they have a right to do so. Well, they don't have a right to do so because they're not operating out of a duty unless they claim it as such, and they claim it as such because they know that if you beat them to the punch, they've lost their authority. And that scares police officers more than anything else because they know where their limits are for the most part, and that's why as soon as you challenge them and can put them into a position where they can't do anything, they'll try to backpedal as quickly as possible.
I'll scare them. I'll send them a notice of understanding and intent.
Well, Lenny, what I would encourage you...
Could you repeat what you said yesterday about duty and rights?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, not a problem.
You go into court talking about your rights. I have civil rights.
I think
and all
I
this.
lost the connection.
And then...
Go ahead.
They come in talking about the duties of a peace officer, although they were acting as a policy enforcement officer usually when they get in trouble when there's an issue. But they of course, don't distinguish between the two. And duties trump rights. I'm sorry.
The reason for that is this, and this is the point that I was making with my explanation of the definitions yesterday. It relates back to Menard's video and book on the magnificent deception, and that deception is that we have been convinced through no fault of our own, for the most part, that the language that's used in the courts, because of its similarity to the common language of Americanized English that we use, that the terms mean the same thing. and they don't. When you're sitting in court and you're the accused, the defendant of whatever, in any kind of a particular case in which the officer, whether they're acting as a peace officer or a policy enforcement officer, has shown up because you obviously have shown up to contest, and the instant you contest a ticket, you're entering into a conflict, and so you have the burden of proof on you. The instant you're in that situation, when you start claiming it's your right to do this, or your right to do that, or your right to act in any way, shape, or form, and then the officer or the officer's representative makes the claim that the officer was acting out of their duty, your rights are negated, and here's why. We, as a populace, our understanding of the term duty is defined as an obligation created through a legal or moral sense. And that word sense right there indicates that you have to feel that it's legal or feel that it's moral to create the obligation. So for the common individual, the sense of duty is subject to a right, because a right is an absolute that must be done, and a duty is an action that's created out of a sense of a moral or legal obligation. However, if you contrast that to the legal definition of duty through either Black's Law Dictionary or the Cambridge Law Dictionary or any of a number of other law dictionaries, duty is defined as a legal obligation to conduct an action with a concurrent right. So when the officer steps up and said, "It was my duty," not only are they indicating that they were operating under a legal obligation in their action, but that legal obligation has a corresponding right. So not only are they doing their duty, but they have a right to do their duty. And once you couple duty and right together, that supersedes rights. So if you get pulled over, don't have a driver's license, don't have insurance on your vehicle, vehicle's not registered, and you go to court and claim, "Well, I have the right to freely travel," and the officer says, "I was just doing my duty," you've lost. No matter how much you're going on and on and on and on and on about what your rights are. Which is why it's necessary to indicate that it is your duty, D-U-T-Y, your duty to act in the way that you're acting to preserve rights. Because once you have indicated that you are doing your duty, the cop cannot claim that he is doing his duty. The cop can only claim that he was acting out of what he believed to be his operating procedures. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Man, you're killing me.
I realize that. That's just because you're trying to change duty into duty. And I hope that works out for you. I hope that makes you exceptionally happy. So, David, I hope that reiterated that to a point that was understood.
He's on. I don't think his microphone's on.
My charge to anyone who's out there listening and might be suffering from the same type of situation or question is to realize that all of your rights, you have a duty to perform those rights to ensure that they are preserved. And that's what you need to argue from in court, otherwise you're constantly going to be subject to the officer claiming it the same way, and because of the way that the language is written, the courts are going to assume that the officer who's using it in the same way that they are is far more right in their application of the legal status than you are.
Well, the whole thing's ludicrous because they're also going to assume the cop is telling the truth. I mean, how ludicrous is that? I mean,
fairly ludicrous.
When does that happen? I mean, we're talking about fantasy world impossibility of probability there.
Yeah. It's like when you're in court, if you start talking about rights, you're jumping on their game, and they'll just say, you'll quote like, "Oh, so and so jurisdiction or whatever. This says this," and they'll say, "Well, that got that there's an exemption to that rule, and so, so it doesn't even apply."
Well, you know what? That's why Menard has this idea for the 3CPO, which is really going to be amazing when that gets going, where we're going to, especially in extreme situations or in extreme jurisdictions where we have to fight jurisdiction, we're going to keep sending a gold piece around and hire each other as peace officers. So the peace officer's duty trumps the policy enforcement officer.
Always. Every single time.
So if we're already a peace officer and then it becomes a conflict, we trump them. Because all of the things that they do that get them in trouble is policy enforcement. Mm-hmm. Then it requires the definition to come out in court and things like that. You know what I mean? So that the whole thing's just trumped by that.
Yeah, yeah. Because you have to quote like endless legal references and like clauses and articles.
Oh no, it's just 2 seconds. There's no way around this distinction. One is one is the other. Yeah.
Yeah, right, but if you're just sticking to your rights, then they'd ask like, what article is that? What clause is that? And then they'll say, oh, the so and so movement of such a year.
No. I mean when it's your duty as a peace officer, it only covers a few things. So.
Yeah.
Well, but that's exactly the whole point. Is that you can't, no matter how many things you cite, no matter how many things you reference, no matter how many things you go back to, as soon as somebody has claimed that they're operating out of a duty over you, you're done.
Mm. Yeah.
You're totally done as far as legal considerations are concerned.
That's right, cops, you're done. when we go into court with our duty as a peace officer, your duty as a policy enforcement officer is over.
Mm.
Completely.
Because you're not acting as that.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Which is why it still continues to boggle my mind that this woman that David had contacted and been in touch with responded that the terms are the exact same thing. I mean, I don't understand how you can make the claim that a peace officer and a policy enforcement officer.
She probably asked her supervisor, and that's what her supervisor told her.
No, they do know. Their arrogance is unbelievable. I mean, it's off the chart. I mean, they're the idea that you could just by default assume that they're good guys and that they have some good reason for some. No, they're not even. I mean, they're so far gone from that. You know?
Sure.
Their arrogance and hubris, I mean, the whole thing, go on. I'm sorry.
Yeah. You're all right. Go ahead. We're all.
I just want to scream and rant and yell. Plus, I was in the bathroom earlier. I didn't get to yell then either. So go ahead. I'm all bunged up. Just go on.
That's the time to yell. Is when you're in the bathroom.
Well, no, I didn't leave the microphone on because you would have heard me from there.
No, that's all right.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, we'll let you get back to yelling and screaming because we definitely want to hear you your rant on the whole subject here. We have hit the top of the hour. It is 2:00 in the afternoon. It is Tuesday, April 20th. You are listening to American Freeman on the Freeman Radio Network. We definitely appreciate you being with us. We want you to contact us, send us your questions, send us your responses. You can always reach us while we're online by going to Keep Truth Free on Skype. Contact us. We definitely want to hear from you. You can always find out more about us by going to worldfreemansociety.org and go under the Chapter America homepage. You can find out more things about what's going on with the radio station, find out more about the president, myself, as well as other things that we're doing all over the entire globe, as well as locally here in the United States. Evstratios, I want you to go ahead and slip into the rant that you were avoiding earlier while you were
No, I'm over it. I'm over it.
I'm not over it. I want to know. You obviously had something important that you wanted to share with
No, I don't. Just
not
go-
only
move
listeners, but also are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you positive?
Mm-hmm.
Do we still have torrent links to World Freeman Society on Demonoid?
Yeah, but
Yes.
we're gonna.
I haven't gotten them all up yet.
I raised the
Okay.
bit rate, so we may redo it.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just doing a search
okay.
under World Freeman Society, and I'm not coming up with anything at the moment.
I could ask a favor. Maggot, you did a real good job on doing the descriptions. Could you?
Yeah.
Could you write up descriptions for all the episodes for me so I can include them?
Well, I can give you a generic template, but I haven't got the time to listen to them all again and put in what everybody said. But it was just
That's my. Yeah, I guess maybe I should just use a generic one because it's.
Yeah. You just really need a list of guests or people who call in, and then put for the topics covered legal issues and various commentary, news items, that sort of thing.
I mean,
So I'd have to
the
listen
shows
to
aren't
each one
really
of those.
that interesting. We don't really deserve Mark's friggin' com to summarize all of our shows in extreme detail. I mean, I don't know. I love Mark's friggin' com, by the way.
We do.
Yeah, we don't
But
need
it's
to go
such
to
a
the
brilliant
extent
name.
that Red Ice Creations Radio does anyway. I mean, they're a bit excessive.
Well, plus
But
they want to
everything's
charge you for part
information.
2 of every interview.
Yeah.
Scumbag.
But you've seen their format. I mean, that's what I basically did. Is I just did a stripped down version of that because I liked it. Apart from just like they'll list every single thing mentioned in the interview.
And if you would like to hear part 2 of this interview, please pay. Right.
Yeah. if you'd like to hear me say "in a sense" 50 times, please pay.
He does do that.
And we definitely are trying to avoid that show. Yeah. Definitely.
Because
don't
I
want
mean,
to do
really,
that.
the torrent description should be done during the show. You see, because if we're doing like 3 hours a day, I mean, nobody wants. That's 6 hours. Because somebody's got to like do the show, then go back and go, oh yeah, you said that, and then he said that, and then he said that, and that's 6 hours. So I mean, unless you want to spend that amount of time.
Yeah, we kind of need a note taker to jot down the basis of whatever we're talking about.
That's
Well,
right.
thank
Yeah.
you very much for volunteering. We appreciate that. Just kidding.
We need the guy from Mark's friggin' com.
I'm not entirely
Well,
sure I
you
can
know,
use all the shows.
What's your
right,
what's
we
your
already
name
spent
on
3
the
hours
website?
on the air doing this stuff. Do we, I mean, it's hard enough to do the show. Can you imagine sitting and
Right.
listening to it again?
That's what I mean. Yeah, double the time, wouldn't it?
Right,
Unless you
exactly.
just do it during the.
You mean we're not
during the-
fascinating?
It's part of the reason why I'm asking.
Well, we're
I'm
definitely
going back
fascinating.
and
I think we are.
The sound of your own voice. Isn't that
Did I
great?
lose the line? It takes me a couple of listenings through just to get. Hello?
That's it. Yeah.
Hello, still listening. Well, but that's exactly why I've been trying to incorporate themes starting this week, so that we're talking about one particular theme each day, so that it's a lot easier to write a description instead of trying to coordinate a bunch of random thoughts. And today's
So I
theme,
reckon if
quite
we had,
obviously, tends to be the police. So
Yeah.
I think it's a good theme to talk about because, well, we all have had experiences with them and all had major run-ins with them. At least most of us have. You've been tasered, Maggot.
Yeah.
Lenny
I think
has-
it's a joke taser. I don't think it's a real one.
Wasn't a real one.
I used to run
No, I don't
newspaper
think so.
distribution,
It'd be a bit-
and I got pulled
What-
over so
wait.
many times in the middle of the night
David?
for little teeny tiny.
What did you say?
Well,
You used to run what?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dave, I'm sorry.
I
Yeah,
used to
say
run
that
a
again.
newspaper
Speak up a bit.
A newspaper distribution. Everybody talked over him.
Right, and I got pulled over so many times in the middle of the night, while I was out delivering papers on down routes and such that when I went to get a job when I got here, any job that required driving, I couldn't get because I had too many tickets on me. And it was stupid
Really?
stuff like lights out or my license plate was crumpled because I went through some road that really bottomed out my car.
Sure.
And basically, usually when I get pulled over, it would be about between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. All the drunks were already home because the bars were closed at 2. These officers had nothing to do, so they started going after the people who were delivering newspapers. Because very literally, that's the only people who are out at that hour is people delivering newspapers. So.
Sure. Well, and I had a similar situation when the wife and I moved out to Portland, Oregon. I took a job delivering newspapers.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
delivered
Had you
early.
been in Contra Costa County, I might have hired you.
Hi.
I was up at 2:00 in the morning and
kind of-
loaded and out and
Yeah, I don't
running
really
by
have
at
to, I guess.
2:30,
We're
2:45 in
not
the
now.
morning every single day, 7 days a week, 360
No, I'm saying
days
I
a
have it
year,
on mute.
driving all over delivering newspapers. It's
Getting out while the drunks are getting home.
right, exactly. Woohoo! But when we first moved out there and I got the job, I still had my
Step away from
Michigan
the
license
machine.
plates on the vehicle, and we were living in Oregon.
I do that. Too.
My
When
license
convinces me I
plate
have
on
to
the
pay.
vehicle was still
Okay.
valid. The registration and everything, according to the statute laws, was still valid for almost
Wait, that's not
nearly
two, those
a
are
full
not two.
12 months.
Those are two different ones.
So I was
Those are
driving
three
around
different
delivering
items.
newspapers.
Oh, two of.
I
see.
did not realize that the lights over my
click here to
license
update
plate
your
had
shopping cart
burned out.
content.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't underlined.
Got
And
Those
who
don't
cares?
have links that aren't underlined.
Right, exactly. Who cares? If you're driving behind me, your lights
Yeah,
are on the back
okay.
of my vehicle. You can see my license plate.
Yeah, and we're waiting for it to
Got
respond.
pulled over, issued a ticket,
Who's talking now?
had to
He's on
pay
there, yeah.
$370 some odd dollars
You have to-
plus
update
fix
after you change the number.
the light
Okay.
and everything
Yeah.
else. Well, that ate up all of 1 week's paycheck. So I had
Yeah.
to wait a week to get another paycheck
should
so that
listen
I
to
could
the show. These
update
guys are really
my
interesting.
registration on the vehicle.
All right, thanks. I'm sorry about it.
2 days after I had been pulled over and paid off the fines for the light out and everything else, I'm out doing my rounds again. I've been out for a half hour. Whoop, whoop! Get pulled over again. Pull over to the side of the road and roll my window down. Cop doesn't come up to my window, just opens his car door and stands up and says, "Fix your goddamn effing registration and plate, you asshole!" and gets back into his vehicle and drives away.
You're the only one on the road, and a guy comes up with a gun and a clown car in an outfit with the psychotic nature, and he's got to bully you because you're the only guy on the road. So he has to bully some. Why does he have to bully somebody? What business does he have with that? And he's got to swear at you. And what is going on here? And you're not supposed to respond.
Well,
I'll tell you how I like to
and
respond.
It comes. How
How's
would you
that?
respond?
I won't tell you. I won't tell you. Thank you. I'm polite.
But
I'll respond.
to try to answer your question, and then we'll get back to what Estradio's or Lenny's, I'm sorry, response might
That's
be.
my real name.
I know. Well, God forbid any of us know our real names, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't want to hide behind a pseudonym like other people on the radio we know. Well, no, the
You know, like Jack Blood. Yeah, he was born with that name.
Yeah.
of course you would.
Go on.
But the reason that they do it, the reason that they pull you over, the reason that they figure they have to is because we've all heard, at least most of us have heard, that policy enforcement officers have to make quotas. They have to turn in so many tickets worth so many dollars every single month to ensure that the district, the municipality or whatever, is recovering as much money as they possibly can from a particular district. And for those of you who are out there that might think, well, that's not true, pay
Well,
attention.
it's like having a society of vampires, and they have to feed on the public. They need
Sure.
blood. I mean, don't
Well,
you understand that they need blood, and you just are going by and it's random. They have to have your blood.
Well,
Go on.
but,
It's crazy
and
talk.
like
And then
I'm
they
saying,
deny
that
it too.
For
They all
those
have
of you,
quotas, don't they?
Okay.
They got to fulfill their quotas.
Right. Well, for those of you out there who might not think that's true, pay attention to how many policy enforcement officer vehicles you see out and about in the last week of a month. They'll be doubled. You'll see them all over the place because they're not out
The Bay
there.
Area is roughly 10 days before the end of the month.
Okay, well, yeah, generally speaking, anywhere between 1 week or 10 days to the end of the month,
Or did I just
you
lose
will
the line?
see them out there in massive amounts
Yeah.
of force in highly trafficked areas. And the reason being is they're looking
Yep.
for absolutely any excuse to pull somebody over. I know this firsthand. It was Memorial Day weekend 3-4 months ago, 3-4 years ago, I'm sorry, here in Michigan, in the U.S., in which it was the Saturday night of Memorial Day weekend, which is the end of May. It's the last weekend of May. My wife and I had gone into town, into the major city locally, and hung out with a few friends and had some good time. I had a couple beers, but I hadn't had a couple in a few hours, and so I'm driving home. And I'm driving home, and the local highway that I'm on changes from 4 lanes down to 2, and so I'm doing 55 miles an hour, doing the speed limit, and there's traffic coming towards me, so I flip my bright lights off, and the traffic passes me, and it takes me probably 20 seconds or so before I realize, I can probably turn my brights back on. And as soon as I turn my bright lights back on, I see flashing lights in my rearview mirror. Police officer pulls me over. Asks me, do you know why I pulled you over? I said, no. Why? He said, because you were swerving. Well, I wasn't swerving. I wasn't even drunk. I wasn't swerving. He pulled me over because I had a delayed time in turning my bright lights on after it was clear that I should do so. Is there a law that states that I have to turn my bright lights on if there is no oncoming traffic and it's late at night? No, of course not. But this was his semblance of excuse to pull me over. He gets my light, my registration, my insurance, everything checks out, because at the time I was still completely competent to everything else. He asked me if I'd been drinking. I told him when the last time I had a drink was. He says, would you please step out of the vehicle? And this was all before I came to understand Freeman operations and the difference between my common law rights and statute laws. So I get out of the vehicle and he runs me through a sobriety test, a roadside sobriety test. And whether or not I actually did, in his opinion, I had failed enough of it that he wanted to give me a breathalyzer, which to my indication means I hadn't failed enough of it to warrant hauling me in, that he felt that if he didn't give me a breathalyzer, he might be missing something.
He wasn't doing his duty, he felt.
Right, exactly.
Full.
He tells me, if you refuse to take the breathalyzer, I will arrest you right now for obstruction of justice, I'm assuming. I will arrest you right now and haul you into jail. I'm like, go ahead, give me the breathalyzer. So he does, and he takes it back, and the results post on his little computer thing on it, and he goes, do you know what you blew? And my response...
Am I psychic?
Well, my response was...
You know why I pulled you over? Yes, I'm in your head. I'm thinking for you. Now I'll project out of your mouth. What? Come on.
All right. Well, my response to him was... My response is, well, you have the machine in your hand, so how could I know?
Yeah, but they'll taser you for that answer. Every answer is wrong. Yes, sir.
He didn't.
You should have gotten on your knees and worshipped. He's a royal police officer in America. He's the Prince and King.
Is he? I was like, you must obey me! I just could go around getting them to beat up people then. That'd be fun. Beat him,
call him your
take
grace?
gold pieces on him.
He asked
I could
me,
get
do you know what the legal limit in the state is? I said it's .08.
Well, I have a backseat full of your statute books, so of course, yeah, let me pull them out right now. And
well, but I knew because I've been raised in a culture and society that has constantly indoctrinated us into accepting what the legal limit is. He goes, well, do you know what you blew? I said, no. He goes, you blew a .068. I said, excellent. Can I have my information back and I'll go home? And he looks at me stunned that somebody would have made that statement to him. He says, why don't you go ahead and sit back? He goes, if I told you where you were, where are you right now? I said, I'm on 127 southbound. I'm Liberty Landfill is just up ahead. At the bottom of the hill, I'm going to make a left-hand turn onto Reed Road and take that up about a half mile to the stop sign, and then I'm going to make a right-hand turn. He goes, okay, you know where you are. I was like, you had to ask? He says, if I were to ask you what time it is, what time do you think it is? I said, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. And he looks at his watch, and the only reason I know that this is accurate is because my wife was in the car, and she told me that she could hear the whole interchange, and just as I say it's 3 o'clock in the morning, the digital readout clock in our car changed from 2:59 to 3 a.m.
Well, no.
So
in America, the cops are so pumped up on steroids, he didn't know where he was. He was kind of curious.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm sure.
yeah.
I'm sure.
Plus the drugs they're on of every variety.
You need
Well,
to
the
check where he
cop-
was to put in
so-
support.
So the cop finally lets me go, and I get to get home and everything. But I wasn't drunk. I wasn't acting erratic. I wasn't completely oblivious to everything. I just happened to be the first indication out on the road that he had seen in the last 20 minutes that gave him an opportunity to pull somebody over. That was it. I hadn't done anything. And I cite this by the fact that I am currently driving on what's considered a suspended license, driving a vehicle that is not registered to me or my wife, with the plate on it that's been transferred from another vehicle that has expired registration on it. And I have passed police officers, had police officers follow me 2 cars behind, and they do not pull me over because there is nothing to pull me over for. Neither license, registration, insurance, or anything have anything to do with how you operate your automobile whatsoever. But police just...
Do you hear the brainwashing here? You're justifying why the highwayman should pull you over to rob you, or not.
Now, I'm not justifying. I'm merely stating that they have
They're
zero...
criminally wrong.
They have zero statute abilities or rights or even duties to do anything to you. Period. Whatsoever. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, but they still got a quota to fulfill of arresting a certain amount of people for certain sort of crimes. They do in the UK anyway. They got that here in the UK.
They do.
Yeah. Should have asked him. Say, did you just stop me to fulfill your quota? He's probably just been like chasing people for like 20 miles or whatever that is in kilometres, 35 kilometres or something. Just in the hopes of like filling up his quota. Let's fill it up.
Doing that in the Bay
I've
Area
guessed
generally
that one.
guaranteed that
Really?
you get once for having a crumpled driver's license. Like they didn't write me up for anything else, just crumpled driver's license. Couldn't have known that unless they asked for it.
Mm.
Well, the thing is that not all statute regulations have a negative conception. For example, I wear my seatbelt when I'm driving. Not because I'm adhering to statute law, but because if I get into an accident of any kind, I kind of want to protect my life. I drive the speed limit for the most part, especially when there's other traffic around, because I don't need to threaten or violate anyone else's rights while they're, traveling in their automobiles. I come to full stops at stop signs and stoplights. I use my turn signals. I operate in every manner that is absolutely possible to ensure that I am creating a safe environment not only for myself but for other people on the road. And as long as I'm doing that, I can't be at fault. Now, here's the biggest thing about the whole situation that boggles my mind. And if Stratios knows this, because I've shared some of it with him, I was informed by the court clerk here in Michigan, in the township, city that I live in and around, the county that I'm in, that I have and this is the direct quote from the court clerk, I have a suspension on my driving record. which just fascinates me for this main reason all by itself. A driving record is, if you break it down, driving, even if you negate the concept that you can only drive a motor vehicle, which means operation of the vehicle for the purpose of commercial exchange, if you accept that driving is any operation of any kind of an automobile or self-propelled vehicle, etc., etc. So my driving record is an entire understanding of every action and act that I have done while behind the wheel of a motor vehicle. So a suspension on all of my actions indicates that you must be aware of all of my actions. Now, they only have on record, the only record they have to go upon is the record of my tickets and my infractions that have incurred tickets, which means my record, my driving record, as the court understands it, is the few scant tickets that I've had and everything else, which would be a couple speeding tickets, and that's pretty much about it. So, suspend my speeding tickets. That's fantastic. Great. Woohoo! Do you have a record of every time I came to a complete stop? Every time that I used my turn signals? Every time that I was considered to other drivers on the road? Do you have a record of everything that I did on the road? No, of course you don't. So you can't suspend my driving record. And I have absolutely no documentation that indicates my license had been suspended. And when you take into consideration that you cannot license an unlawful activity, okay, so you took away my legal referencing driving in
You
order...
take your lawful right to travel away.
Right. Well, you can't. You can't. You can take away my legal ability to drive a motor vehicle, which means I can't drive a cab. I can't haul things long distance. I can't be a courier. I can't do anything in a motor vehicle that makes me money.
And really, I'm telling you, I'm useful. But anyway,
Well, but even according to their legalese, I am not allowed to operate a motor vehicle in such a way as that it is transporting passengers or commodities for the purpose of making money. Okay, that's fine. I don't do any of that, ever, at all. I'm not a courier. I'm not a transport vehicle. I'm not a taxi cab driver. If somebody says, hey, now, and this is one of the things that bugs me just a little bit, my in-laws want me to drive them to the airport this Thursday morning, bright and early Thursday morning, which I will do because that way they don't have to worry about leaving a vehicle someplace for 2 weeks or anything else, etc., etc., etc. Now, I know they're going to give me money in cash for it, for having taken the time to do it, but I'm not issuing them a receipt. They're not claiming that against anything or anything like that. Am I obligated to have a driver's license, a commercially
no.
driver?
They're just paying you for some gas.
According to the state of Missouri, you would be.
No, you're not. You're not a regular business.
Right,
You
exactly.
may not be,
So
but
that's the question.
the state of Missouri, you would be.
Does-
My stepfather moved furniture for my mom before they were married, and my mom literally had to sell it to him for $1 before he could transport it, because if he was hauling somebody else's stuff, then they were going to charge him all sorts of taxes and stuff whenever he went through the weigh stations. And
What kind of
another
vehicle?
thing, one of the things he had a fifth wheel. It basically is a trailer that you pull on the back of the pickup, but it's
Sure.
about the size of one of the trailers they have on the back of the big trucks.
Why would he have to have gone through a weigh
He would have
station?
been considered a moving, well, because of the size of it.
Oh, but he wouldn't have been considered a commercial vehicle. How did they know he wasn't hauling his own personal stuff?
That's just it. They
'Cause if
wouldn't.
you're
But
hauling
they asked lots of questions. They even asked my mom, "Did you buy him coffee?" Because if he had him coffee, if she'd happened to buy him coffee, that would have counted as a financial transaction, and they would have, counted as he was doing work on the road.
Ladies and gentlemen, do you see how
The insanity of control freaks.
Yeah. I should
all-
point out I don't drive, so I'm unaffected by any of this.
I'm sorry,
That's why you
Maggot.
gotta stick to the 3 laws. Because when you get into this tax and statutes nightmare, they never stop. They never, ever stop. And they don't have any restraint, or it just never ends.
Right, exactly.
Mad.
Never ends. They're constantly
That's
on.
why we have 60 million of them. 60 million statutes and acts.
Right, and ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Yeah, that's right. Nobody ever said ignorance of the statute is no excuse. Have you ever heard that? I've never heard that.
Never. It's ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Not ignorance of the statute.
I'm tempted to next time I hear a judge say that, or next time I'm forced to be in court, I might tell the judge, hey, ignorance of the law is no excuse, and you might be darn right. And the laws are these 3, and name them all.
I just want
And
someone
you are
to
doing me
call
grave harm by just making me be here.
Well, then, and
You
that's
are in
exactly-
violation of the law, good sir.
Right, sure. And unfortunately, I think I've searched through and done a lot of the debunking information stuff on most of the things that I research, just to find out how people think that they have the ability to debunk. And one of the elements that they use as a debunking towards the Freeman identity is that, especially in the U.S., is that, some guy in California attempted to do the same thing, and he claimed it was his rights, and et cetera, and everything else, until they showed up and hauled away and impounded his vehicle, and started telling him he was going to be charged with all kinds of things, and then he caved right away, and blah, 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 blah.
there are other movements trying to do this, and they do it very, very incorrectly.
Well, but if I can finish my statement real quick, one of the things that I think it's necessary, especially here in the U.S., for people who belong to the society to know and understand is that this isn't going to be easy. You aren't going to look at a police officer and say, is that a bill of exchange? Or I recognize that as a contract and I don't consent. You're not going to suddenly have them go, oh, I'm so sorry, you're right, I apologize, and walk away. This is going to take time and effort and energy, and there are going to be opportunities and times when we're going to have to face court trials, we're going to have to stand up to and defend our existences and everything else, and that's just part and parcel of what's necessary to ensure it is our duty to do so, to ensure that these freedoms and rights are protected for future generations. Any individual out there who is thinking about being part of this society or is part of this society and think that it's a free ride to do whatever you want or to act in any way that you want or that you aren't going to get challenged, I've got bad news for you. It's going to happen. I expect at any moment when I'm out and about and doing things and traveling in my automobile that I can be pulled over and hauled into jail and incarcerated and have to go to court and everything else.
Colonel Perry, we have the place surrounded. Come out with your hands up.
Do you have a warrant?
We don't need such a thing.
I'm afraid you do need such a thing. Thank you very much. I'm in the middle of a radio.
Open the door.
I'm in the middle of
We
a
have
radio.
tasers!
Hey, would you please come back?
Mr. Murray. It's always on their timetable. I mean, they're in a hurry. Whatever. It's always it's so foreground.
Sure.
Yeah, the pizza's getting cold.
Who cares what time it is for them? Who cares what they're up to? You'll have another donut and a drink, you bastard.
Well, but that's exactly it, is that we have been so conditionalized, and that's why I was referencing your
What are they, gods?
Facebook post.
Yes.
Gracias.
Meetings and
Can we beat them with a notice of understanding and intent?
No, I'm saying they need some beatings and a notice of understanding.
Well, but I'm saying if I draft a large enough notice of
Get a
understanding,
really big one and wrap it around their head.
25 pages long, I should be able to beat them over the head with it, shouldn't I?
I know, it's supposed to be a lot nicer, but, these cops really have upset me.
Fair enough. Well, and in your case where you are, that's totally understandable.
I'm extra frustrated. I don't recommend you do these things.
But once again, the opinions and atrocities perpetrated by those of us upon this show are not necessarily meant to be taken as absolutely literal that you can
We're not
do
giving
yourself.
you legal advice.
None whatsoever. Investigate and research everything for yourselves, period.
Yeah.
However, you may find that while you're researching that we are right.
Yeah.
You may.
Yeah.
You may not, but you probably haven't done enough research.
I'm blown away that every time I've helped people that have called, as being the president of the Football Freeman, that this stuff actually works. I don't personally have a lot of these problems that many of the people in the society have, but even I'm blown away. So, I'm just a guy. I'm not Menard or whatever who's figured all this out, and I've looked it all up to make sure it was true. But to actually see it work freaks you out.
Well, sure, of course it does.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why, and I want to share this with David. David, are you with us still?
Yeah, I'm
I've
still
never
here.
seen it fail.
Excellent. Maggot, you're still with us, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. I want to share this with you all because, especially with any of our listeners out there who may be finding themselves in a similar situation. Lenny knows this story, but I'll share it with the rest of you. I actually was traveling in my automobile, the one that I had mentioned beforehand, about a month and a half ago, and hit a patch of ice coming around a corner, and spun out and wound up going off the road. Called a friend of mine who was not that far away, and he got access to a pickup truck and a tow cable, and came and helped pull me up out of off the side of the road, back up onto the pavement and everything. And just as soon as he does that, and we get everything unhooked, and he starts to drive away to drop the truck off and come back, a local sheriff's officer pulls up. And the sheriff's officer starts asking questions and inquiring about what was going on and everything else, and asked me my name, and my response was, well, are you asking me legally or lawfully?
Ouch.
And he goes, what? I said, are you asking me legally or lawfully? He said, legally. I said, I don't have a legal name. He goes, well, lawfully then. I said, it's Don. He goes, your last name? And I wasn't thinking clearly at the point. I said, last name's Perry. He goes,
And he
date
did.
of birth. I know, right. Well, give me a break. He says, date of birth.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know. I wasn't counting at that time. He continues with, come on, I realize you weren't counting at that time. What's the date that you've been told is your date of birth? Well, I can't lie at that point, so I tell him it's November 26th, blah, 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 as I've been told. And he goes back and sits in his vehicle and suddenly pops back up and goes, you know, your license has been suspended. I said, so? He gets back into his vehicle. And I know he's running the plates on the vehicle, or trying to, or whatever. Well, the vehicle's not registered to me, or my wife. It's not registered to my address. He's found off my first name, last name, and date of birth. The plates on it are registered to an entirely different vehicle. But when he asked for ID and I refused to show it to him, he has no proof of anything that I've told him. He only has hearsay to go on. He has no proof of a person or anything else. My buddy shows back up with a friend of his in the car, and the sheriff's officer goes back and demands identification, as in a driver's license, out of both of them. Which they, of course, both being, you know, good American citizens, provide for the officer. And my friend stays in his vehicle, and the person he brought walks up and gets into the driver's seat of my vehicle and starts it up and starts to pull out. And the two vehicles, my buddies, my friends, and mine, both start driving away, takes off and heads off. Now, if he had run the plates and realized that everything didn't register to the hearsay answer satisfaction out of the situation, they know what the limits of their authority are. He even told your buddy here has got a real big attitude. Couldn't touch me, couldn't arrest me because I'd never shown him ID or anything, couldn't do a thing, could only take the steps that he thought were necessary to indict me in the face of my friends. To which my friends went, yeah, okay. And that was it. So this stuff works. This stuff is real. This stuff is actually true. It merely requires the personal integrity to not give in or to accept being tossed in jail. I mean, even Menard talks about when he has been thrown into a jail, when he has been tossed into a holding cell, his first response is to start trying to instruct other people.
Yeah.
And they won't leave him in there.
No, they pull him out. They throw him out of jail.
Of course. Because it's far more dangerous for them to leave him there. Way more dangerous to leave him in prison or in jail or in a holding cell, because he's going to be able to provide information to other individuals to be able to beat, or rather to quote-unquote beat the rap. But these are things that they don't want you to be aware of. They don't want you to know. Once again, if Stratios knows this story, I got a phone call from the Warrant Enforcement Officers Division here in Michigan. And sent a bunch of information telling me that I had an outstanding court fine and needed to pay it, or they were going to issue a warrant for my arrest. And I asked the individual, who are you trying to reach? I'm trying to reach Donald Perry.
No,
and
the
I said,
person Donald Perry, wasn't that?
Right. They said, I'm trying to reach the person Donald Perry. I said, I'm sorry, I don't know the person Donald Perry. They don't live at this address? Not the person, no. Well, do you know Donald Perry? I said, actually, I happen to be. My first name is my name is Donald. Can I help you? Is your last name Perry? I said, the last name is a legal referencing. I do have a family name. Does that help you? What's your family name? It's Perry. Excellent. Mr. Donald Perry. I said, my name isn't Mr. Donald Perry. If you want to refer to me, you can refer to me as Freeman Donald of the Clan Perry. Fine. You owe us blah, blah, blah amounts of money. And I said, okay, why? She said, don't you remember being in court? You know, this may have been quite some time ago. You're going to have to refresh my memory. And so she starts laying into me about stuff. Finally, I was like, you know what? I tell you what. Why don't you go ahead and send me a bill telling me what I owe? Send me a contract that I owe this, that is signed by both an officer of the court and myself, and any other court documents that might relate to the situation. Her response was, what, you don't have any of these things from when you were in court? I said, I may or may not. I don't know at the moment, but I would appreciate it if you're demanding this out of me for you to send me all that information. The bill, the co-signed contract, and any other documents. And I will be more than happy to discharge this. And she goes, fine, you'll be happy to discharge it? I said, I will. She goes, excellent. I'll have it sent to your address at 936 blah, 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 etc., in Michigan by the end of the week. And click, hung up on it. Well, this is back in March. I have yet to respond to them, by the way. But this is back in March. So at the end of that week, about 2 days later after the phone call, I received this in the mail. Dear Donald Arthur Perry, and I'm really, really pleased the way that they wrote it because it's capital D on Donald, capital A on Arthur, and capital P on Perry. Enclosed is a copy of the citation that you requested for case number, and lists the case number. The total amount due is $240. Payment can be made via phone with blah, blah, blah. If you wish to send payment by mail, send check or money order to etc., etc., etc. If you have any questions or need additional, please feel free to give me a call. Now, that sentence was read completely straight. If you have any questions or need additional, please feel free to give me a call. Not additional information. So first of all, the sentence...
They didn't give you everything you asked for.
The letter that they sent me hasn't been written out well. Not only that, they only gave me the opportunity to pay by phone or by mail, not to pay in person, which is a violation of my rights. But then didn't give me a bill. The next piece of paper they send me is the front page of my citation that was issued by the policy enforcement officer, that is signed by the officer and doesn't have my signature on it anywhere at all. So they have neglected to send me a bill or contract that has my name signed on it anywhere whatsoever. They then proceed to send me the judgment of civil infraction and the ordinance of civil infraction, in which the ordinance claims that I agreed to be responsible and didn't give a plea, and the judgment states that it is ordered that the defendant must pay this amount immediately by returning a copy of this judgment with payment, which means they want me to send back the judgment and pay on it, which means I'm sending a remittance and payment, which means ultimately they get paid twice off of it.
Which is a remittance?
Well, this says defendant must pay this amount immediately by returning a copy of this judgment.
They didn't write the word remittance, though.
No.
Okay.
But they wanted me to return the judgment with payment, which means I had to remit back to them the judgment with payment.
No, if they didn't write the word, that's not a remittance.
Fair enough.
That's a very
Regardless,
specific term. I was hoping to find that one.
well, so was I, but it's not on there. But at the bottom of this judgment of civil infraction, it states, it has a thing that says notice to defendant. It says, if this judgment is the result of an informal hearing, you may appeal the decision within 7 days, etc., 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 or you may file a motion to set aside the default within 14 days, etc., etc., etc. And then it states, I certify that either I have personally served a copy of this judgment, or I have served a copy of this judgment on the defendant by ordinary mail, and it's supposed to be signed by the clerk, deputy court clerk, or magistrate, and dated, none of which is done. And in fact, the signature above all of this by the judge is a stamped signature, so it's not actually a real signature. So they sent me a civil infraction that is improperly filled out, and then an ordinance of civil infraction to coordinate to that is also improperly filled out, and the total on both of them is $95. So I was sent a piece of paper, a letter, not a bill, a letter stating that I owed $240, and then all of the attached information failed to provide the information that I requested, and or implicated that the amount that I owed was $130+ less than than what is claimed that I owed. So they have failed continuously in their ability to try to perpetuate their case against me. And I was pulled over operating a motor vehicle with expired tags and registration. Well, the vehicle wasn't mine. I had been given the keys to the truck to drive to haul things. I'm supposed to automatically be responsible for the lack of registration and insurance on a vehicle that wasn't mine. Simply because I was operating the motor vehicle at the time. Does that strike anyone else as infuriatingly odd?
Everything about it's odd. It's all odd. Is he there? He asks these questions and walks away from the microphone.
Any interesting news today? I don't manage to catch any of it.
You can't hear the music, but I'm really enjoying it. And a place for you to stand. So
Extramarital sex or earthquakes I've got as a headline. I'm probably not going to bother reading it out, it's too stupid. Yeah, extramarital sex causes more earthquakes, Iranian cleric claims.
Is that what does it?
Yeah, and that's from Iran,
stop
so
right
you know
now.
it's true. Extramarital sex causes massive farts or something.
An interesting question. What is extramarital sex?
That's like... yeah, go on. Oh, it's quite easy.
That's what you're married to somebody and you're doing it with somebody else.
That's it. It's sex outside marriage.
Same other person, though. Is that extramarital sex?
Extramarital sex is sex with anybody outside your marriage.
Yeah.
Anyone you're not married to.
And that causes earthquakes.
Yep.
Yes,
Same as infidelity. It's another way of saying infidelity.
Like homosexuality caused Katrina.
Well, it probably did. I would be surprised.
Must have.
That's why they didn't bother saving anybody in New Orleans or whatever.
Of course.
No, it's hardly stupid, yeah.
I've
This
heard
is
at
in the
least one
Telegraph.
individual that blamed Hurricane Katrina on Mardi Gras.
Yeah, that was surprised.
Well, of course. Because to punish Mardi Gras, let's go ahead and have a Hurricane Katrina in August. Not during Mardi Gras.
I believe it was the Girls Gone Wild segment that they had just had that caused the Katrina, wasn't it?
Oh, see, there you go. Definitely.
See that? You see where they're correlated, right?
I do now. Thank you. I appreciate you summing all that up for me there.
I'm willing to help you with these things. I mean, if you're confused about the news, I can help you.
Yeah, I can read out the article. It is daft, though. It's in the Telegraph.co.uk. Women who dress inappropriately incite extramarital sex. That, in turn, causes more earthquakes, a senior Iranian hardline cleric has claimed. Well, yeah. So it's fascinating science, this is. It was published in 19th April.
Had some kind of fundamentalist idea.
Iranian women walk outside a shopping centre northwest of Tehran. Great, it's nice. That's the cause of earthquakes, apparently. Ayatollah Kazim Sedigi is also claiming that extramarital sex causes more earthquakes. He made the claims to worshippers at a Tehran prayer service. Attractive women who snub traditional Islamic clothing to instead wear fashionable clothes and apply heavy makeup caused youths in the country to go astray and have affairs, as Ayatollah Kazim Sedigi said. He said, as a result, the country, bounded by several fault lines, experienced more calamities such as earthquakes. And that's reported in a reformist newspaper called Aftadi Yazd, Y-A-Z-D. Okay, sort of repeating itself. That's probably like typical Iranian stuff, like repeat itself about 50 times in order to get it through.
Pretty typical any media stuff. I mean,
Yeah, it's pretty monotonous to read. The Islamic dress code is mandatory in Iran. Yes, and it's for good reason as well. which has been under clerical rule for more than 3 decades. Every post-pubescent woman, regardless of her religion or nationality, must cover her hair and bodily contours in public. Offenders face punishment and fine. Hasn't stopped urban women from appearing in the streets wearing tight coats and flimsy headscarves and layers of skillfully applied makeup. So it's all their fault.
You know, if
experts
everyone in the world covered themselves up, how would we ever know who to be attracted to?
I mean, it's a really hot country as well.
They are showing an ankle.
Oh, well, you know, as long as it's not a cankle, I guess I'm okay.
Right.
But how?
And the women have to wear a jacket and a tie. But the dress code over there is very specific.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, but we've got a bit from experts now, so you can breathe a sigh of relief. Okay, experts have warned that a strong quake in Tehran, the Iranian capital, it'll kill hundreds of thousands of people. So you see, they've already blaming women in advance. So just so you know, everyone who dies is going to be the fault of some woman wearing makeup. That's Iranian Muslim logic for you.
Hold on.
Like, really sensible.
Can I get that information locked down into just it's going to be the fault of every woman and share that with my.
Yeah, any woman, any woman. It only takes one woman to go around in makeup, and it will cause the massive earthquake that's predicted. And if every one of those hundreds of thousands of people that gets killed is going to be her fault.
Wow, that's insane.
I know. It's just like how you look at their religion if you look at it literally.
But see, in England, they've not only de-Christianized them, but all the news stories are skewed. Okay, that is crazy. But the point of the story in England is that all religion is wrong.
Yeah.
It's always skewed like that. And that's supposed to be an indictment on all religion. It's not because if you say that's crazy, then they start up about every other thing too in England.
Yeah,
that's how they de-Christianize the whole country.
This whole article is all sound bites, and it's just as bad as what I'm reading out. I'm not reading out the worst ones, and most of them are just repetitions. And that was it. That was the amazing scientific logic of the superior Islamic State of Iran. I'll post you a link if you want. Or it's really no better than I read out. There's that actual point of the article. It's just like just telling you in advance.
That was the point.
Yeah.
Religion is all wrong, and screw you. That's the message.
Yeah.
They're crazy. This religion. Yours is too.
Yeah, especially in Iran.
Film at 11.
Yeah, exactly. Well, since we're on that topic real quick, I just want to run down and get a quick opinion of our people here before we take a break here at 3 o'clock. Lenny, do you think religion is all wrong? Do you think that religion in itself is a necessary evil, or do you think that it has a applicable element in consideration?
You don't really want me to go there, do you?
I do, actually.
Okay.
What do you think?
Well, see, I have a hard time defending Catholic and post-Catholic Christianity. It's not really Christianity. As much as they try to become fundamental in all this, they're so far gone from it that the minute it's a top-down control system, you've missed the point. If it's telling you, if there's a priest telling you what to do, you're missing it right there. That's not
okay.
But it's not that religion is wrong. It's that it's been perverted in Western Europe and America.
Okay.
I come from an Orthodox Christian background, and it is completely inappropriate for them to ever tell you what to do. They never do that. It's not top down. But see, the Catholics broke off in 1054 and decided that it was going to be a top-down control system, and they were going to paganize it and bring in the Jews and every other thing. And it's ridiculousness. I mean, there's no defense of that.
Okay.
And yeah, it's so insulting that if I had gone to church and they told me what to do, I would have left right then. I mean, it's just so insulting, and it turns you away from all this stuff. And that's the point. That's what the New World Order is trying to do. And then
away from all the real faiths. And,
no, they want to kill any legitimate Christianity so that they can merge all the other religions back together into a one world religion to Lucifer. That's the key. Yeah, but
Right.
the one, see, they act like it's ecumenism. They want all the religions to merge, but they don't. It's every one of them except any actual branch of Christianity, any actual Christian. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Illegitimate Christianity is fine. 501c3, perfect.
Gotcha. Maggot, let me ask you the same question. What's your opinion of religion and its perspectives of human civilization and its validity?
Well, I've read a lot of stuff and studied a lot of it, and I've tried to have people try to put me under the thumb of a lot of it, but I always object to actual people telling me what to do, because man's flawed, because that's why they're on Earth and they're like fallen angels and all that rubbish. So what are these fallen angel idiots going around telling me what to do and how I should live my life and how I should do what they do when they don't even do what they're saying they do?
Right.
It just falls to pieces. Even if I tried to follow it, I'm too strong-minded and logical to actually carry on, because I find it's full of flaws. They don't even follow their own rules, and it's like they come up with rubbish like, do as we say, not as we do. No, I'll do what you do. Seeing as you're so high and mighty, and seeing as you're so high up and so close to God, I'm going to copy you. Oh dear, I seem to have got you into a whole load of trouble because I just copied you.
You're right. Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I sound now the way I said it sounds so intolerant and so like I'm telling you what to do. It's just because they're so darn wrong. What I'm exposing, you know what I'm saying? It's not.
Yeah,
there are all kinds of right ways to do it, but the minute it becomes telling you what to do, that's way out there. That's
called dogmatism.
Right.
Dogmatism. I got no problem with religions saying oh, thou shalt not do this, or love thy neighbour, all that sort of stuff. But when they try and dogmatically impose it on you, it's always more a reflection on the person that's doing it, and they're always sort of out to get you, or out to get your money, or out to get something out of you, which has got nothing really to do with any sort of relationship with God or whatever, any sort of spiritual relationship. And they always try and put you into a box, but basically it all comes down to dogmatism.
Fair enough.
And that's what I object to. Yeah.
So it's
Michael, if I may, thank you guys. Michael, are you with still?
He's not on the line.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize he wasn't on the line.
We'll throw him in here.
I apologize. I'm looking at the whole breakdown here, and I thought he was on the line with us.
He's offended at the heresy.
That may be.
I'm willing to play Michael. I can do him. But no, go ahead.
He will say, read the Bible's.
Yeah, I know. I don't want to do that.
Read it backwards. Hey, hear the wisdom now.
Oh, wow. Now I understand I need to go out and kill all the trees.
Yeah.
Shoot blue jays. Thank you. They're the ones who are disseminating all the untruth. Yes, that's it.
Yeah, the Bible's a classic example of why you shouldn't submit to religion is because there's so many different versions of it. I saw a Jordan Maxwell documentary, and he said there's 27 different versions of it. There's 27 different versions of the same book.
Now, sure.
In
you've got to
Europe,
believe every word.
Go ahead, Stradius. What were you saying?
In Europe, there is.
But how do you know which one's right? If you just went to a shop.
Wrong. They're missing verses and stuff.
I know.
Well, but even here in the U.S., we have.
See, I'm in a bad position where I can defend it, but no one will like it.
Well, you can defend it all you want, but and we want to hear that.
No, nobody wants to hear my opinion. Go ahead.
I do. We definitely.
I'm so sick of America. I want to get out of here. I want to move back to Asia Minor, and I want to stop speaking English.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
We do want to hear your opinion, just like we want to hear everyone else's opinion out there on our topics and on our subjects. Once again, we have hit the top of the hour. It is 3 o'clock. We have entered our last hour of broadcast here. You are listening to American Freeman on the Radio Freeman Net.
That's me banging my head into the desk.
Under gunfire, apparently.
No, that's me hitting my head in the desk.
Fair enough. We are currently undergoing insanity at the moment. We do welcome your comments, your concerns, your questions, and everything else. You can learn more about us by going to thinkfree.ca or worldfreemansociety.org. You can contact either Evstratios, who's the president of the Americas chapter of the World Freeman Society, or myself, Don Freeman on the Land Perry. That way, send us your questions, send us your concerns. Check out our blog and our forums. Find out more information and learn as much as you can. We are joined, as always today, by the Brit with the most wit, the
so cool.
individual.
You're so hip, man.
Which one, me or him?
You.
Well, thank
He
you.
gets them out of Chinese cookies or something, whatever you call them. Those things you get in Chinese restaurants. He opens one up. And he comes
I
out
know.
with them.
Where do you get these phrases? Are you from the 50s or what?
Cookie without any of the calories, ladies and gentlemen. We are joined by Maggot. Thank you for your ridicule. I appreciate it. We
Yeah.
are also joined by.
Fortune cookies.
I don't think I could take the show without the music behind it.
That's why we rely upon you, our producer, the president of the Americas chapter of the World Freeman Society, Evstratios. Thank you for being with us. As always, we wouldn't be any.
Nobody needs to discover me. I'm back again.
For those of you who want to know how to discover him that are listening out there, if you're on Skype, you can contact us at Keep Truth Free on Skype, and you can always make sure that we know what you think, what you feel, try to answer any questions that you have. Even if all you want to do is to tell us that we're completely off base, we welcome that, even if we don't listen to it. We have been talking today about the police, policy enforcement officer versus police officer, as well as continuing our conversation this week on the control elements that are instigated and imposed against all of us. I apologize for interrupting Evstratios from going ahead and going on his rant and rave there, but we definitely want to listen to your points and point of view on the subject. I would appreciate if you would continue on your line of thought.
Yeah. Nobody needs to discover me. I'm back again.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have entered our karaoke hour. On
Let's name that tune.
Name that one.
I got no idea.
we hope that you're actually hearing the music behind him.
There they
because
are.
those are not.
I can't hear anything. I
Yeah.
didn't hear you singing.
It's
So
not
funny.
piped back through Skype, but it's playing.
I do
I
want
can't
to
hear
ask
any music.
out there, do we have David and Michael back with us at the moment?
No, they're just in the chat room. I hate shows that refer to the chat room, but oh yeah, David is actually back online. We'll put him in.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Here we go.
After you finished blaspheming.
When somebody is not only just in the chat room, but back online with us. Thank you all for being patient with us. We are only in our second week. We are trying to work out all the bugs and work out all of the considerations that are going on. If we have offended you or pissed you off or upset you, contact us, call us, email us, let us know. We want to hear from you.
And we're gonna send Thorazine to Don, so it's gonna be a lot cooler after this.
See if you can double our listenership in one episode.
I'm already on methadone, according to some conversations that we've been in. So why would you want to send me?
Meow.
I'm
That's
just
what they call it over here.
meow meow.
Yeah,
Methadone meow.
yeah. It's called methadone. It's meow meow over here. Called MCAT as well. It's hilarious because like you flick through the papers and it says meow meow sales have decreased. You know, like, it's like, these two girls are like bitching each other using coded words or something. And meow meow. It's like, meow meow. You know, it's just all junk talk in the papers. This is a witch speak, isn't it? Meow meow. Yeah, it's just so bizarre. I didn't even know about methadone until I read the article calling it meow meow.
Well,
It's so
I
funny.
never,
Respectable paper on the front page. Meow meow sales double as I don't know, court injunction threatens or something. They're planning on making it illegal or something, and replacing it with another drug.
So let's see. Methadone is the number one prescribed cure to heroin. So now they're going to outlaw methadone.
And replace it with something else.
Heroin addicts, right?
I'm sorry, say that again?
So they want more heroin addicts. They get rid of the methadone so you have to stay on the heroin.
Well, you would imagine that must be the case, or otherwise they're just planning on introducing another different kind of drug to give to heroin addicts to try and get them off the drug. And once again, you have to realize that this is a government-controlled program. For example, it's down to trying to eliminate alcoholism. So
This show's got interesting. Okay, I've got
echoing again, so
a Yahoo Answers thing on methadone. Okay, it says, what is methadone? Methadone. Meow meow. And is it legal in the United States? I have researched this drug, and it is a cocaine-like substance that gives you an ecstasy feeling of euphoria. It is legal in the UK.
and ecstasy. So it's and ecstasy.
It's a cocaine-like substance, so you snort it, and it's like, it gives you a sense of euphoria that ecstasy gives you.
I've snorted pixie sticks that are sugar. Does that mean that pixie sticks are a cocaine-like element just because they've been snorted?
Depends on your psychosomatic reaction to the drug and your neuro reaction and all that sort of stuff. It's like if you're Ozzy Osbourne, you can get high by snorting ants.
Right, sure, fair enough. There you go. Keep reading, man. I'm sorry.
Okay. It is legal in the UK where people can order it online and have it at their doors in less than an hour. Oh, I need my milk, meow meow, give me some pussy. I don't know how you know.
Brilliant.
you phone up, ask him a pussy, and they give you some powder.
Total brilliance.
The rest is legality questions. It's like, is it legal in the United States? How can one get hold of it if it is legal? Well, obviously it is legal in the United States, isn't it?
Is it?
But I suppose you...
Methadone?
I'm just
I have no
checking.
idea.
Not legal in the U.S.
It's not. Well, it is supposedly still legal in the UK. Yeah, because this is an older article. It says methadone ban could be recommended after meow meow tragedy. That was in the press on the 20th of April. Just double checking that this is the UK. Well, yeah, it says in Scunthorpe, so that's in the UK. Yeah, it's just like old big tragedy that was set up in France, where blah 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 blah. Yorkpress.co.uk. So yeah, it's still legal in the UK.
And here it hasn't been for generations.
No, it's been illegal for generations, has it? I thought maybe the doctor's prescription, or what would you call it? I think you can just buy it over the counter.
In the U.S., you can have it prescribed for you, but it falls under the Controlled Substance Act. Once again, notice the term "act." Act referencing statute as opposed to exact law itself.
Yeah. Because they did the same thing with ecstasy over here. They gave it massive amounts of hype and, helped promote it. And it was like, oh, this young girl almost died, and another one died within seconds after taking ecstasy, and others take hundreds of them. But all that does really is like help promote it.
Sure.
Go to nightclubs and take ecstasy. Not that they weren't doing it anyway, but it's publicity.
Well, I had a friend of mine years and years ago who told me he was going to take acid until he had a bad trip.
Yeah.
I haven't heard from him in years, so otherwise he had a really bad trip and committed suicide, or he just doesn't know the difference between the two. But it's that same idea, is that it's prescribed and allowed and given and encouraged until there is a sufficient amount of evidence that proves that it is a negative element. It's like any kind of drug that's perpetuated out there. In the U.S., for example, they've been hyping and pushing the Ally drug, which is supposed to help with weight loss. Take Ally to help you lose weight. It helps convert fat into muscle, blah, 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 etc. And once you start looking into and understanding what Ally actually does, is that it introduces an enzyme into your system, much in the same way that Oleo did when they introduced that in the mid-2000s, where all it does is consolidate all of the fat molecules into one big molecule that your body can't digest, so you wind up with massive indigestive problems, in which you constantly have to use the bathroom, constantly passing gas, etc., etc. So, yeah, you may lose weight, but you're also going to lose all of your friends. Because none of them want to hang out with somebody who was like, so I went to this movie last night, and there was my favorite actor, George Clooney.
Sound like Josh Reeves.
Well, but
that's what Josh Reeves sounds like. I'll cut the mic.
Fair enough. But this is what we've been indoctrinated with, and this is couples itself straight into the whole control identity.
Yeah, but in his case, that's coming out of his mouth.
Yes, he's always burping and snorting.
Yeah.
Every show he's like
It's even that
5-10 minutes.
It's called Alestra, not Oleo. But see, P&G also makes Pampers, so it's a double sale. See what I mean? You get the Alestra, and then you get the inner leakage. So you need the Pampers. See how this just increases sales.
Well, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Eat all this
win-win,
fiber,
see what I mean?
and then buy our diapers.
Right, you'll have to have them. It's not because of flatulence; it's because of leakage.
That's a rather disgusting
Now, that's
concept.
That's a pleasant dinner. You know what I mean? You have to have the diaper. I mean, maybe I'm not hungry now.
Well, and there are certain cases, certainly around Thanksgiving time, that might come in handy for a number of participants in the American society.
I like to hold it in. You know what I'm saying? I don't want it coming out without my knowledge. I like to be in control of the situation. I don't, If it's a matter of leakage, maybe I'm not hungry anymore.
Fair enough. For those of you who are out there listening for the first time, welcome to American Freeman. We have basically a no-holds-barred system. We are willing to discuss and talk about anything that you want to. We try to tailor our ideas to discussing only pertinent issues, but that isn't our limitation.
Yeah, we always take the pertinent issues.
We promote Meow Meow on the site as well. That's why we got the two cats. Meow Meow.
Now my question
hasn't moved immediately. Everywhere.
This
site is back
on the
meow.
newspaper. I finally clicked the link.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about Special K, but that's not, okay.
No, Special K is an actual cereal.
No. Special K is a cat tranquilizer that they take in New York.
Yeah. I know.
It is.
Probably has
Special K. Special K, is that a cereal?
No. That's the Kellogg cereal. He lives in Michigan, so he's very Michigan focused. That's Battle Creek, Michigan makes that.
Right.
Alright.
This is a mad voice.
Oh
The
my
World
God!
Freeman Society.
Devil has
Presented by Meow Meow.
infiltrated.
I have to reboot the iPod. I think I screwed it up.
That's all right. Not a problem whatsoever. I did want to ask you guys a question, simply because it came across to me as being important. Doing a little research earlier today, and I realized we're coming down within our last hour, and perhaps we don't necessarily have full time for this, but I'd like to start discussing it, if nothing more than to create a topic for tomorrow's show. I did some information research into concentration camps, because the theme for this week is governmental control, and
The theme for our week is government control.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think we'll
She
be
got
going
a
off
more-
that topic.
More broad range
Actually, tomorrow's our
subjects.
daffodil show,
Hey,
and we'll
hey,
be talking about tulips
hey,
and daffodils.
hey, we have listeners out there who want to believe that the themes each week are different.
Okay.
I'm just trying to, just because no, just because we know something doesn't mean they need to know something. They are only initiates. They haven't progressed past the point of being into the inner circle, you know,
Well, if you're an initiate, I recommend you send in your demit letter right now.
I wondered if
FEMA is short for Feel My Love.
feel my love.
It's FEMA Love, yeah. FEMA Love.
Well, they love
So-
you. They want
that's
to
what
take
they
care of
play.
you, even if
Yeah.
you don't want them to take care of you.
That's
Well,
what they play with
Even
outside
if
the
you're
gates.
kicking and
Feel
screaming
My
and
Love.
yelling. No, stop.
Yeah.
We love
Good.
you. We're taking
They have
care of you.
hippies outside with acoustic guitars going gling, ding, ding.
They love us. Can
They
you
truly
care
do.
the love?
Only Big Brother truly loves you.
Right. That kind of love I can do without.
So, the reason that I wanted to get to this is because I came across, while doing some searches earlier today, somebody who had written in a question to a forum that stated, FEMA concentration camps, FEMA coffins, what to do. Quote, "This is not a joke, and nor am I crazy. I'm actually a highly intelligent person who is knowledgeable about what is occurring now here in the U.S. and what is to come. If you do not know that what is currently happening and will happen in the near future, please Google any of these words: FEMA concentration camps, FEMA coffins, 2012, Zeitgeist, Blue Stream,
Oh no!
etc.
Do not.
I am
Google
reading. Hold
Zeitgeist.
on.
Why is
Zeitgeist is
Zeitgeist the
theosophy,
official
is
guide
history,
to
is the lie.
I am reading what was written.
Kinda
I
hate
do not
Zeitgeist.
agree with it. I'm just reading what was written. Please review the documentaries on YouTube. Look up George Green, Esoteric Agenda. We U.S. citizens are in trouble and burdened with plans that we as individuals can solve. Please reach out to me and let me know if there are forums, others who are in the know, etc., 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 etc. Responses. Best answer response chosen by somebody was, there are over 800 prison camps in the U.S., all fully operated and ready to receive prisoners. They are all staffed and even surrounded by full-time guards, but they are all empty. These camps are to be operated by FEMA should martial law need to be implemented in the U.S., and all it would take is a presidential signature on a proclamation and the Attorney General's signature on a warrant to which a list of names have been attached.
Hey, we're safe from that. We're safe from that because we don't have a president right now.
Well, you would think so.
No, he's a Fulbright scholar. He's not a U.S. citizen.
Yeah.
He's not the president.
However, a vast majority of the responses to this are, quote, highly intelligent, then use your intellect to do some serious research and stay the hell out of the op blogs and conspiracy dim-witted websites that feed ability. And go back on the Prozac and delete everything that says Zeitgeist. You will find an Arab anti-Zionist funding for that crap.
That's not it either.
Right? And an urban myth morphs into a full-scale non-issue. And wrap a wet towel around your head. It will make them harder for them to track you. And finally, I don't care what anyone thinks, but that there is funny. You just gotta love, not got to, but gotta love the paranoid. So,
I want to quit speaking English. I want to move to Asia Minor. I just want to load the place with machine guns and stay there and not come back. I want out of America. If there's another planet I can move to, I'd like to go there.
But my whole purpose in bringing this up is to question.
I don't even know where to start with attacking that.
Well, I'm not.
Zeitgeist is the savior, obviously, on that article.
Zeitgeist is the other side trying to trick us.
I'm, if I may, I'm asking Maggot what his opinion on the entirety of questioning government and the establishment of prison camps. Do you have any indication that prison camps are being set up there in the UK? And if so, what kind of response, if any, that you have found relate to it?
I know we have immigration centres, which probably amounts to the same thing.
That's the cover they have here, but they're not trying to stop immigration, yet they still have tremendous immigration centers and detention areas for that, but they don't use them.
Yeah. But I don't think there's any plans to have massive portions of the population sent over to death camps or prison camps or anything like that. The mind control here is just too damn good. They don't need to do it. There's just put people under more, give them more powerful drugs and sedatives. And, the British people or English people, whatever, have got a long history of compliance. So I don't think they have to go to the extent they have to go to in America. But a lot of that is going to be scare tactics anyway in America. But I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but, a lot of it is going to be hype because, the hype is a lot cheaper than actually have to put things into effect.
No, I don't think the hype is enough. I think it's not. It's way understated, and these people are so desperate to shut down any discussion of it. That I don't think that it's discussed enough.
Oh, but when they start quoting numbers,
far
that's what I'm
worse
thinking.
Than they say.
Do you think there's more?
Significantly worse than they say. Yeah. And it's not hyperbole either. I mean, it's verifiable. From first-party sources.
Explanation?
Do some homework. Look through that FEMA website. There are government websites that go on and on for miles. I mean, it's incredible, and people just don't look.
Well, and
why are they saying it if it isn't true?
Well,
it's
but
them. They could be indicted if it's not true. Why would they publish it? It's on .gov type websites.
Well, but again,
we can't register .gov.
It comes down to the same element of what Menard talked about in one of his videos, in which the most pertinent and important elements of government doctrine are written in such the most boring, mind-numbing rhetoric to prevent you from ever working through it. To get you to the point where you go, oh, God, I'm done, I don't want to read anymore, before you get to any coordination of how it protects your rights or how it is infringing your rights, and it's done on purpose. So, you can say, yeah, well, blah, 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 but I think we're trying to give to our listeners the ability to research these things for themselves, and to try to understand them for themselves. And even if they have to work and fight through mass amounts of insanity, that doesn't mean that we should limit them from understanding what insanity or types are.
Well, here, let me give you some handy search tips. If you put site:/.gov into Google, all in one piece, then you'll only be searching .gov websites. All the responses will be coming from the U.S. government response. Or if you went site:/.mil, every answer you find out after that point, it's not going to be a conspiracy theory. God, I wish someone would say that to me in person and see what I do. But it'll be official stuff from the government and the military. .gov.mil. Put site:/. That's how you can restrict where the responses come from.
All right.
Boy, there's a wide range of material there.
Alex Jones has done quite a few videos on that sort of subject as well. I mean, I've seen most of his videos. I thought they were alright. Obviously, that's his older stuff. I haven't seen the new one. Some Obama one. Or is it something to do with deception or something? Or Fall of the Republic or something?
Fall of the
I haven't
Republic is
seen
it, but that Jason Burmis, who's now hooked to him, has a new one too.
Okay.
But I haven't seen that one yet. I've got it. I downloaded it, but I don't have it. I mean, I haven't watched it.
Yeah, because he's got footage of one of the trains they have, and it's got all shackles on the floor and stuff, and it's for taking people over to the prison camps.
Yeah, that was locally in Austin. That's called, I believe that's Police State 2.
Yeah, it's a Police State series, I think. Yeah.
There was Police State 2000, Police State. That was before Jones went out of control. That stuff was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
And it's very. I mean, it's all true. But his
that's it.
ego and his ability to eat cheeseburgers has gone out of control, and then there's his wife and his children.
Right, because it's all like, here's the facilities, like video shot of it. Here's the, documentation supporting the installation of the facilities. Here's the people standing outside the facilities, and so on and so forth. So that's like fairly straightforward, journalism. There's not much of a spin on it. So I haven't really kept track of him, like the latest ones, because they're possibly a bit too sensationalist. I mean, he's still okay, as long as you watch his videos. If you listen to his shows, he comes off as a bit of a nut job. He just goes off in tangents and stuff.
Well,
picks on the same subjects again and again.
Well, unfortunately, he is, as much as he is attempted to be an element of the truth, in order to be receptive to a vast majority, he has had to limit his expressionism to only indicate certain things. As much as he rants and rails against people like Chris Matthews or Glenn Beck or anything else, he's become nothing more than the antithesis of Glenn Beck, in the same way that the Republican Party is the antithesis of the Democratic Party.
No, they're actually identically the same. The people who want to be Republicans, who think in their mind that they're Republicans, are one thing. But if you look at what the actual Republican Party is now, it's the Trotsky Party. They're neocons. The neocon position is not the traditional Republican position, and you'll have people swear up and down that it's still the party of Barry Goldwater and all this, and it's just not.
Well,
They're
sure.
identically the same. Obama's doing exactly what Bush did. Exactly. He didn't change anything.
Well, yeah. Anyone who's actually paid any attention to how it operates realizes from the get-go that he hasn't changed a single thing about the Bush.
And see, there's this insanity in America. It's a social hypocrisy that the media has brainwashed everyone, where if the same crime is committed by someone of my party, it's okay. It's only when the same crime is done by somebody else. That's ridiculous. if it's the crime and we pull off the mask and suddenly it's a guy from my party, they're guilty. Damn it, that's the same thing. It doesn't matter if we caught the jewel heist, we pull off the mask. If it's Bill Clinton or it's the Easter Bunny or it's my mother, sorry you did it. You're going to prison. It's the same. And the same punishment should apply, but it somehow doesn't.
Well,
Because
but that
it's Obama, you know, Barry Soetoro, the criminal fraud. It's okay, but if it's Bush, it's bad.
well, but that's exactly what it is. It's
And see, they're really pushing it now to the point where now he doesn't have to show his birth certificate. He doesn't have to follow the rules. He doesn't have to say the oath correctly. And then later on, when they redid it in the White House, he doesn't have to swear in the Bible. If it's the man of your party, well, then suddenly all rules are gone. But the same group was like sticking to the rules to the last, the letter of everything when it was Bush. And then the opposite was happening when it was Clinton, and they wanted to the pettiest, the littlest stuff, but they knew they can go after him for the big stuff because they're guilty of it too.
well, yeah, but that's exactly what the whole point is that.
But if we pull off that mask, I don't care who it is who did it. Yeah.
And again, like I was trying to say, that's exactly the same point, is that they talk about, and you see this as petitions on a number of different websites and everything else to encourage you to stop hate speech.
Oh, God.
Well, but hate speech in and of itself is a communistic term.
Straight out 1984, isn't it?
Basically, they're trying to enforce a 1978 four-part miniseries called The Holocaust. They threw out everybody's book. They threw out everything anybody who was actually there said, and they're enforcing an NBC miniseries. That you cannot oppose the script of the miniseries.
Mm-hmm.
It's so if one of them deviates from the script, it could be a hate crime.
Well, sure. Well, it's the anti-Semitism.
That's the insanity that if you say something, even to argue, even if you're right, they'll call you anti-Semite even though they're not Semitic.
What the whole thing that I gained from it is that if you argue, disagree with, or infuriate, upset, instigate a conflict, or create any kind of oppression,
or to tell the truth quietly,
or based upon the impression of the person on the other end, and if that person on the other end that's receiving it happens to be of the Jewish persuasion, you're automatically anti-Semitic. It has nothing to do with the veracity of the conversation. It has to do with the application of Semitism to Judaism. Just because I disagree with Lenny doesn't make me anti-Byzantine Greek.
right?
Just because I disagree with Maggot doesn't make me anti-British. Just because I disagree with Ray doesn't mean that I disagree with parents.
No. But this is one step towards insanity further. This is, if you attack me, I'm Byzantine Greek. If you attack me and I insist you're anti-Chinese, but I'm not Chinese, I'm crazy then. You see how that works?
It's like people who claim that you're being anti-Semitic even when you attack them.
They're Khazarian Turks.
Even Semitic.
They're from Russia. A really good way to get around it is to ask them, so your grandparents came here from Russia then? Oh, and they're so proud, they'll tell you the whole story. And the reality is, then out of the same mouth, they'll tell you that you're anti-Semitic. Come on.
Right, if you came from Russia, you're not Semitic.
As if the Bible somewhere says, well, meanwhile, 3,000 miles away, a group of unrelated Turks... what?
Oh, and it's akin to a friend of mine who lives in Arizona was dating a Polish girl. And I don't mean that her parents or her grandparents came from Poland. I mean, she was born and grew up in Poland, and came to the U.S. to go to college. We were hanging out with my friend Mike and his girlfriend at a place in downtown, one of the downtown cities here in Michigan that I live in, and we were hanging out and enjoying ourselves, and ran into people that my wife and her friend, the guy who was dating this gal from Poland, knew, and got to talking and everything else, and the guy said, "Oh yeah, well, I'm Polish." And the gal who was born in Poland said, "Really, what town?" He said, "Oh well, you know, I wasn't born there or anything." And she said, "Okay, where were your parents born?" And his response was, "Oh well, they were both born here in the United States." Everything else. She goes, "Okay, where are your grandparents from?"
Yeah. I'm back.
He couldn't even answer that question, and she looked at the rest of us and said, and at him and said, "Well, how are you Polish?" You know? And the same thing can be attached to quote-unquote Jews. Okay, where were you born? Well, here in the United States. Well, okay, where were your parents born? Well, here in the United States. Well, where did your parents come from before they came here? They came here from Germany. How are you, quote-unquote, Jewish if you weren't born in and around Jerusalem?
Well, no, they play a separate god of it's a religion, it's a nationality, it's a religion, it's a nationality.
Yeah.
Religions and nationalities are not the same thing. You can't claim. Well, but you can't. If I can't claim religion and nationality as the same thing, no one else can.
The same rules never apply to them. The same doctrine. It's worse than what happens in America about political parties. The same definition, the same rules. Somehow, it's not the same thing.
Well, but that I'm sorry, that's not realistic.
It's what happens, though.
Yeah, but that's not realistic.
All you have to the European court where the truth is not a defense.
The truth is not a defense.
That's what it says, and that's how the court operates, especially in Germany. The truth is not a defense. And they want to bring that here to America.
So it doesn't matter if you're speaking the truth or anything else. It only refers to whether or not you agree with the party line.
The old doctrine in America up till just recently is that if, like, Johnny Carson attacks some other celebrity in his monologue, and it's true, it's not actionable. And then of course Liberace blew that for. He ruined our law by he didn't want to tell his mother he was gay, and so he sued and won, and proved in court he wasn't gay.
Well,
so that was the end of that.
How'd you do that? Have another gay man walk up to him in the court and say, "Will you have sex with me?" And you're like, "No."
Have you ever seen him at all? I don't think there's a question.
No, I know. He's like one of the most basically gay people in our universe.
How can you tell me he wasn't gay?
Yeah, but I mean, he proved that he went in court and destroyed our legal system in a way. The truth is a defense. You know, if I make a claim against you and it's true, then that's it.
Which
in Europe, though, that's gone. See, they've got a concept of Napoleonic law and all that, the positive law, that everything that isn't named is illegal. And then they've come up with this truth is not a defense on top of that, and then they got rid of the jury. You're screwed.
Well, that just seems totally anathematic, and I use that term once again, and I hope you've understood it. Anas, not ines, not ines, not ones. Anas, as in anathema. That idea seems anathematic to the concept of human existence. You can't deny simply because you don't like it. That would be like saying, I deny the existence of the Holocaust just because I don't, or I deny the Apocrypha, or I deny the Spanish Inquisition.
Well, see, the thing is, the same people that insist you can't deny something that is rather been proven wrong. I mean, it's completely bogus. But then they'll deny the Greek genocide. The Turks killed 8 to 11 million of us and 5 million Armenians, and somehow they'll tell you that didn't happen because it competes with their numbers. And then the Russians, the Jews who ran the communism, killed 60 million Orthodox Christians in Russia, and they can't talk about that.
Well, but that isn't a denying aspect. It's just a refusal.
They're the only ones who have ever had anything happen, and then when you look into it, it's not, not right.
Well, but then it's a refusal aspect. It's
Right.
going, refuse to accept this as being real, therefore it isn't real. And refusal is an indicative of truth. I can refuse to accept all kinds of things. Like, I refuse to accept that JFK was assassinated. But that doesn't mean that it's real or not.
Think he's still alive?
Yeah, right.
No,
exactly.
that's the claim that Oswald killed him, and then they had magical bullets that turned left, and even though he was hit from the front, hitting him from the back, no difference.
Well, but you see, I want to own some of those magical bullets.
I mean, maybe they're still in the air. The same bullet probably knocked down the Trade Center. I mean, it's been flying around all these years. Harlan Specter came up with the magical bullet theory, and then they bring him on as an authority of some sort, as if he's a respected public figure. He came up with the left-turn bullet.
Sure.
And that now, see, in the past, they would bring that up. Now they don't mention it. I was over at my parents' house, and that ridiculous Fox Television, they brought on Arlen Specter, and that would have been the first thing I mentioned. This is the insane bastard that came up with the left-turn bullet and lied to America in the Warren Commission.
Sure.
I mean, you're out there perpetrating public fraud, and we're supposed to listen to you ever again.
Yeah.
On any topic. It's invalid on any topic. Once you do that, I mean, it's ridiculous. I stand on the stuff that I say.
Well, good for you. You should. There's no question about it.
They play these games in the media here, and it's sickening.
Well, but they're done for a specific purpose all
Yeah.
the way.
And many things, it's not the thing they're doing. They have a third purpose. They have when they push the gay agenda in elementary schools, it's for eugenics. They don't care about gay people. They care about eugenics. That's what the point of it is. They don't tell you that, and they'll get everybody hopped up for the wrong issue, and both gay people and straight people come in and fight over this, and then they laugh at you because it has nothing to do with either one.
Do you think that they push the gay and lesbian agenda to try and get more and more individuals to ascribe to it and not?
Well, no, it has 4 or 5 additional purposes, but it's the you know what I'm saying? It doesn't even benefit the people that defend it. No matter what side you fall on that, you're completely screwed.
It destroys the gene pool anyway.
Meg, how is that handled there in the UK, the gay and lesbian agenda?
Well, I'm not even bringing that up. I'm bringing up the eugenics agenda. That's the only point of these things.
Okay, and I apologize.
That's the only point.
In the
distraction.
UK,
It becomes a distraction issue.
well, never
That
mind.
doesn't really matter. Whatever you do in private is fine. But they push a phony situation so they can get a third goal. And the worst part is they have that Eric Rise database, ERICRISE, on the federal government. They got away with a lot of the stuff they did, and they had the gall to scan it all in and make PDFs. I got 15,000 documents. At the time, they had this wonderful Firefox extension called repagination. You know when they put things and it says page 1 of 2 million, and then keep clicking?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then there's another plugin called Down the Mall where you can select a tremendous number of links on one page. But what repagination did was it fixed it so it was one enormously long page instead of click to the next page. Click. It like knitted all the pages together. So I was able to download tremendous numbers. It was 15,000 PDFs I pulled off Eric Rise. and the titles of the papers are "Teaching for the New World Order." I mean, and they explain the eugenics agenda and why they misuse the gay thing and why they do the stuff. And these were the handouts they gave teachers all along the way, and they got away with it. And then they gave us the evidence after the fact. Like, you would think, getting away with it, you wouldn't brag about it, but they're proud of what they've done. They gave us the polytechnical system of Eastern Europe and killed local control.
Well, and once again, ladies and gentlemen that are listening out there, we have brought ourselves back around to the conception of the difference between the Byzantine and the Roman system of top-down or bottom-up control. Hopefully, we will have the opportunity tomorrow to delve into a deeper understanding of that concept. I definitely think it's appropriate and necessary, and we will constantly revisit it because it, in my opinion, it has one of the largest implications to how we are given the opportunity to interpret the world that exists around us. You can either look at it as an extension of your ability to grow, or you can look at it as the existence of a limiting factor that coordinates your entire perception. So we will continue this conversation into control.
Early into the show, I was reluctant to talk about things because I knew it was just going to be a morass of nightmare. But when I get done explaining on this show, it'll be crystal clear. It'll take a while, but I'm going to lay it all out, little by little.
And that's exactly how we want you to lay it out.
I just feel that, a lot of times I just feel that you open up a Pandora's box of nightmare, and every part of it is a distraction. Like when you bring up the eugenics thing in the school, it suddenly becomes about defending the gay lifestyle. Screw either way. That's not the issue. It's always a distraction. When you talk about hate speech and the truth is not a defense, then it becomes defending Judaism again. It has nothing. That's not even the issue. Or censorship. Now you're defending fuck. That's not it. Dirty words have nothing to do with censorship whatsoever.
Well, the term...
And it's always an excuse because what it really is having FEMA cut you off when you talk about Bush and his crimes, or Obama and his crimes. That's what they're frightened of, and that's what the censorship really is. It has zilch to do with dirty words. That's how they get the tricks in there.
Well, sure, that relates right back to the whole concept during the Bush administration of free speech zones in which you are allowed to speak out and talk about whatever you want to, but you are miles away from the actual event that the president was involved in. So how is that free speech if you are limited in where you're allowed to express that speech? That is just free speech. The thing
is, Obama feels exactly the same way about this, and you will find the same situation. It's the same thing. It's not like they stopped that either. They just stopped the protesting.
Fair enough.
Because the conservatives are the ones who are actually in the anti-NWO movement. The libs are not. You tended to find the libs will rush out in the street like idiots, and they will make these. They only understand a surface understanding of some of the things in the anti-NWO movement, or they're one issue or something.
Sure.
So that's kind of the stuff you saw. But the real people in the anti-NWO movement, the majority of it, are conservatives.
Well, but I think conservative is a term that has been pejorized.
Everything's become a trick issue.
Well, because people tend to think of conservatives as backwater, non-intelligent people.
So those are the evangelicals. Those are the white libs that they brought into the Republican Party that pushed out all the real Republicans. Because real Republicans don't even have social issues.
If I may.
Go on, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It has been pejorized into indicating everything that you said, the backwater evangelical
social issue people who don't even understand the real issues.
neocon type essence of existence, and there has been a lack of understanding that conservative is more focused upon the effects that are extended through any legislative act towards the free human beings that are supposed to exist under constitutional law. And it's just been vilified as being coordinated with absolute negative conservative elements that have been either through their own actions or through portrayals trying to create an element of violence against the quote-unquote society that we live in, and that's why Democrats or liberals or individuals that can be construed to be part of that party have argued so vehemently that the opposition is trying to destroy the American existence instead of...
But where are they now? Where are they now? It hasn't changed.
Sure, of course. And it's doubtful that it ever will, and that's part of my whole point, is that both sides are operating out of a dogmatic interpretation. Both sides are operating out of a fundamental belief that their mindset supersedes the opposing mindset.
But see, the thing is, the anti-NWO movement has not changed at all with Bush or Obama. It's just the idiots out front that make all the hysterical noise are gone. The 99% of the movement is still standing there and still is upset.
Well, sure. But what I'm trying to do is to present a discussion argument to those people who don't see that yet. And you have to bring...
Most of the anti-NWO movement doesn't speak out loud.
That's probably true.
I track this stuff. I gather the information. I'm way into this. And just because you don't have some hysterical nuts out there protesting, I don't go out there and protest.
Me either.
And I haven't changed my opinion yet.
Sure.
Because I'm backed up by evidence.
Sure.
Just because some hysterical nuts went out in the street because they heard something on the radio. I mean, that...
Yes, exactly. My point is that the vast majority of these people out there who are trying to recognize and establish a sense against this new world order are debilitated from it by this mass media culture. And unless you understand how the mass media culture is operating, you have limited ability to express and coordinate people into believing what you do. And I state that out of realistic thought process and actionable process. The vast majority of people that I try to share this information with just shut down and attempt to change the subject right away because they don't want to have to deal with it.
All right, finally I'm warmed up. Let's start the show. I'm prepared
Excellent. Now. Go ahead. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the beginning of American Freeman.
No, we have 7 minutes left. We're almost done.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that. I was just trying to help you out. Mm-hmm. But it's people have to be recognized. No matter what station you're from, they have to be recognized as being completely competent and capable of researching any of these ideas and thoughts for themselves. Because if they don't, they are going to simply be subject to that which is professed to them as being absolute. Now, I don't claim to have absolute right on anything or absolute truth on anything, but I've been studying this stuff for a number of years and have merely attempted to express the thought process to other individuals, to other people, to other persons, to other human beings that they have the ability to be more than what they have been conditionalized to believe. Do you find that that's true in your life, Lenny?
I don't know. I speak unopposed usually.
Fair enough.
Everyone's into it. I don't find a tremendous amount of opposition.
David,
Not,
do you
not anymore.
David, do you find that to be an element that?
Dave's not up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
You're
Maggot.
looking at the chat room. You're not looking at who's on the call.
I apologize.
right.
I'm not looking at anything. I've got my eyes closed while I'm talking because it's the only way I can keep myself sane. Maggot, do you find that to be true there in the UK?
What's that? I was listening. I got distracted by some music.
Fair enough. Well, it apparently seems that no one's listened to me other than myself, which isn't necessarily a singular element in my situation. It tends to always be that way. I hope that the rest of you out there have been paying attention and listening to what we've been talking about. I have researched a word for the day, a definition for the day, but I'm going to hold off because we are slowly running out of time here. I don't want to serve the entire public. I do want to a bit of time to thank the people that have joined us today. We want to thank Michael. Has provided some insight today.
I just guessed the guitar.
For having been with us today and sharing your thoughts and ideas. We want to let David know that we appreciate him speaking to us and sharing his thoughts and ideas and his experiences with us. We always want to hear from you out and about in the rest of all of existence. If you're listening, you can reach us at Keep Truth Free on Skype. You can also go to worldfreemansociety.org to find out more information about our society and what we're doing. If you go into the Chapter America web page on World Freeman Society, you will find links to both the president of the Americas chapter, Mr. Stratius Constantine Moratis. Did I say that right?
It's just sheer hopelessness of trying to get anything across.
Oh, well, you know, it's
not just my name, but at least the Menard stuff is good stuff.
And that's why I would encourage anyone who is listening who has further questions to go to thinkfree.ca
and worldfreemansociety.org
and check out more of this information and find out everything that you can. We definitely want to hear from you. We want you to be part of this conversation. I am Don Freeman on the land of the Clan Perry. I have been joined, as always, by the president of the Freeman. I'm not. I'm going to say Freeman World Freeman Society Chapter America, Mr. Lenny Bruce.
You see why I want to just dump English and quit, everything.
Yes, that's exactly the point. Just because of my failure to be able to speak the language in the way that it works out for you. We have also been joined today by my other co-host from Great Britain, Maggot. We appreciate you being with us today. Do you have any final things that you want to share with our listeners?
Nothing today, no.
You sure?
Yep.
Well, thank you for being that succinct. I appreciate it. Stratios, is there anything else that you want to leave our listeners with before we sign off today?
I don't know. I'm going to go bang my head in the wall. I mean, I just don't get it. Okay.
Stratios, banging his head against the wall will be available on podcast. Contact him anytime you want on worldfreemansociety.org. He'd be more than happy to provide you with the slam, 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 bang, 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 etc. element to his whole existence. We do appreciate you all being with us today. We look forward to you sharing some time with us tomorrow. You have been listening to American Freeman on the Freeman Radio Network. I am your host, Don. I am signing off. Keep yourselves free, keep yourselves informed, and long live the Constitution.
All right, thanks. I'm the responsible party on those drop-ins. Thanks a lot. Let's get off the air.